is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, "We saw you on television." I say, "Oh yes, on what?" "On GB News." "Hello, are you the famous Sue?"
The whole crew hit me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GBNews family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here, right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again. If you just tuned in, where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Live from Washington, D.C., this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. And tonight, Britain's political establishment has taken a beating. Labour collapsing. Reform surging. Is Nigel Farage building Britain's MAGA movement? And has migration broken Labour? And have we just entered our own Trump era? I'm Ben Leo and this is The Late Show Live. MAGA Britain. Nigel Farage is riding a political earthquake through Britain. Labour rattled, the Tories panicking, Reform exploding. It's anti-illegal migration, anti-establishment and putting Britain first. Is Nigel Farage doing to Westminster what President Trump did to Washington?
These are historic vote shifts. You can see seat after seat where the Labour vote share is down 35% and we're up 37%. It's a direct switching.
Britain's Biden. Tonight, the Prime Minister is forced to learn the same brutal lesson Joe Biden learned here in America. Voters want a leader with a backbone, and now, just like Biden, Keir Starmer is facing growing calls to quit, but refusing to do so.
Not going to walk away from those challenges and plunge the country into chaos.
Border backlash. President Trump rode to power promising to fix America's broken border. Is Britain now seeing the same political revolt? That's as channel crossings surpass, get this, 200,000.
The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route.
Patriotic politics is part of the reason behind Reform's surge in support, just like the Trump admin here, is because they are unashamedly patriotic at a time when other parties feel a sense of shame about our great history.
Losing any sense of national identity. And we're actually teaching kids at school that people like Winston Churchill, born in this palace, are bad people and that our country's history is something to be ashamed of.
Fragmented Britain. Labour is facing the same political backlash that hit America's Democrats over the likes of Gaza, as Muslim voters turn away from establishment parties and back the Greens and independents instead. Is the growing power of sectarian voting blocs a warning for Great Britain?
আসসালামু আলাইকুম আমি সবাইকে অনুরোধ জানাচ্ছি আমার বাংলাদেশি কমিউনিটি যারা এই নিউ হোমে বসবাস করেন সবাইকে
Yeah, me neither. Buckle up, Britain. I'm about to tell you why Britain's political earthquake looks a whole lot like America's and why it's so important. Hello, good morning. How are you? Welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me in Washington this evening is my panel. We've got the Washington Bureau Chief at The Guardian, David Smith, and the former advisor to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, and in London, former Conservative advisor Charlie Rowley, and the journalist and broadcaster Jonathan Liss. Good evening to you all. Hello, chaps in London. Thanks for your company tonight. Appreciate it. Right, we start with a GB News alert. Britain just went full MAGA. Nigel Farage is storming through Great Britain tonight like Trump through the Rust Belt. The elites hate it, the media mocks it, and the establishment parties panic every time he opens his mouth. Well, if it sounds familiar, Reform's exploding. The Conservatives are collapsing. Labour hemorrhaging support. But let's be clear about this. This isn't voters simply sending a message. It's political realignment, because what Nigel Farage appears to be building looks pretty similar to what Donald Trump built here in America. An insurgent movement fueled by voters who believe the political class has ignored them for years. And by golly, haven't they? They've been ignored. Look at the pattern. Working class frustration, migration anxiety, economic anger, cultural resentment, and total contempt. Maybe this is the most important point. Total contempt for establishment politicians. That coalition transformed American politics, and it may be transforming Britain too. Just take a listen to what President Trump said back in 2024.
You have a man from Europe, I don't know if he's here, I saw him backstage. What he did was, and what he is doing is sort of what we did a few years ago. He's doing a great job. He's always been my friend for some reason. He liked me, I liked him. And he's shaking it up pretty good over there. He was the big winner of the last election in the UK, and he's a very spectacular man, very highly respected, Nigel Farage. He's a little bit of a rebel, but that's good. You know, that's good. Don't change, Nigel.
OK, let's get the thoughts of my panel tonight here in DC. Bureau Chief at The Guardian, David Smith, and the former advisor to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, who I suspect is probably quite chipper tonight. Hello, Niall. David, thanks for your company. Niall, do you think, first of all, well, reaction to what we saw today and last night in the UK, but do you think Nigel Farage thinks it's helpful to be compared to Trump and the rise of Trump? Do you think he'd want that kind of comparison?
Well, that's a great question. I think, firstly, this was a real political earthquake that we witnessed last night in the UK. A massive game changer. This could even be the beginning of the end of the Labour Party. I mean, this is how big it is, actually. And Reform's performance was absolutely stunning last night, and so we cannot underestimate in any way the overall political significance of what we've witnessed. And I do think that Nigel Farage is on course to be the next British Prime Minister, according to the projections, based on the local election votes last night. And in terms of Donald Trump, Nigel Farage, of course, is very close to Donald Trump. And Trump's victories here in the United States have, in many ways, been a kind of role model, actually, for the revival of the right in the United Kingdom. And I think there are many important lessons to be learned from Trump's spectacular wins here in the US, and I expect that the Farage-Trump partnership is going to continue to be very, very close. And if Farage does become, Prime Minister, potentially, say in 2028, if there's an early general election, it'll be a very close-knit US-UK special relationship once again. Yeah. And the reality is that Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are sinking very fast.
Well, they certainly are tonight. However, the Prime Minister, he's not going down without a whimper. He's insisting he's staying on. David, just from your thoughts from this side of the pond, what was about last night? What was it about? What were voters saying? What were they really sort of exercised about, do you think?
I think they were raging against the status quo, and certainly there are echoes of the United States there. People feel their lives are not improving, and above all, the political system is failing them, and so every election becomes a change election, and that's bad news right now for Keir Starmer and Labour. They're looking for someone to, provide new answers. One of the lessons of Donald Trump is that once you reach office, then people blame you, and if now Nigel Farage does indeed become Prime Minister, he would have a brief honeymoon before perhaps people would turn against him, and we're already seeing now Donald Trump's disapproval rating is at an all-time high. But yeah, I think there's great frustration, dissatisfaction, and populists are feeding off that, and Keir Starmer has just about managed expectations, because there was talk of Labour losing 1,500, 2,000 seats. It wasn't quite that bad, so he will stagger on for a while, but probably not until the next election.
You said the word populist there. Is that a bad word in your mind, populist? It's got negative connotations?
Not necessarily. Plenty of our readers at The Guardian loved Bernie Sanders' left-wing populism. Yeah. Sure, yeah. In the 2016 election, when America had this fascinating choice to go down the Trump route or the Sanders one, and of course they chose Trump. And yeah, we shall see what Nigel Farage manages to do with his brand of populism, which certainly has echoes of MAGA.
Yeah. Do you think it's, same question to you briefly, do you think it's helpful for people like me, for Nigel Farage, to compare him to Trump? Bearing in mind you mentioned the approval ratings, the situation with Iran at the moment, do you think maybe he wouldn't want that comparison?
It's a very dangerous one, isn't it? Because even in recent months we've seen moments when Farage has had to distance himself from Trump when the US president has criticised Britain or slandered British troops. And if you look at polls of how people in Britain feel about Trump, it's a very dim view indeed. So I think he'd have to be very careful with that one, maybe keep it subtle and maybe copy some of Trump's tactics, but not position himself so close.
That said, I will say, Charlie Rowley, Jonathan Liss, good morning. Thank you for joining me on The Late Show Live. I will say, Charlie Rowley, I reckon most of people who voted for reform last night in the UK probably love Donald Trump.
I don't know about that. But in answer to your first question, I think, look, nobody, or Nigel Farage rather, I don't think would want to be compared to anyone else other than Nigel Farage. The speech he gave this afternoon was saying that he saw off David Cameron when he was, I think, leading UKIP. He saw off Theresa May by leading the Brexit Party. He's now determined to see off Sir Keir Starmer leading the Reform Party. So I think he'll want all of that credit in his own name without being compared to anybody overreachingly so anyway. But he has had a very, very good night. There's no doubt about it. Those constituencies that people were shocked just, almost a decade ago that might have voted for Brexit, and talking about Sunderland in particular, that was an area of the country, north east, traditional Labour heartlands, that voted against the status quo, that thought that Westminster was spending far too much time in Brussels rather than in its own patch. Well, 10 years later, the people of Sunderland are still unhappy with what they've had in terms of their Westminster politics since, and that has extended to places like Barnsley. It's extended to St Helens, just outside of Liverpool. These are places where Boris Johnson couldn't even reach. So I almost called him Donald Trump then. Nigel Farage will be shouted from the rooftops in terms of the amount of success that he feels he's had tonight.
Yeah, and Jonathan, I guess my assessment of last night is that the establishment, the traditional uni parties, of which Charlie Rowley was a proponent, Charlie, sorry I love you, but you were, they still haven't got it. They don't get it. Even since Brexit, they still can't get it in their skulls what it's about and why people are so miffed off.
Well, I certainly agree with you about I don't agree with you about the uniparty, but I certainly agree with you that the duopoly of British politics is no longer. But, we've been here before. In 2010, when you had the coalition, we said that two-party politics was over in this country. And obviously, we went back to two-party politics. I think the lesson of the last 2 decades is that nothing in Britain, in British politics, can really be taken for granted, and things can be very, very volatile. Things can change very, very quickly. So, we are a couple of years out. But certainly, this is, obviously a huge result, as Charlie was saying, for reform. Obviously, a big night for the Greens as well. And we're seeing, a Labour Party in free fall and without any idea of how to rectify the situation. The one thing I would pick you up on, Ben, is this idea that somehow Nigel Farage, former public schoolboy and stockbroker, who just received a £5 million donation from a crypto billionaire, more money than most British people will see in their entire lives, is somehow outside of the establishment. This man has the establishment going through him like a stick at Brighton Rock. He is absolutely part of the establishment, and he's also part of that most holy of British traditions, which is to stiff the working classes. I guarantee you he will continue in Thatcher's legacy on that one.
I don't think you need to be a chimney sweep and go around eating jellied eels and pies in the East End to be anti-establishment.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. What do you think the establishment is, Ben?
I think he traded commodities in the city. He is clearly anti-establishment. He's not part of either two main traditional parties.
That doesn't mean anti-establishment.
He's got a few quid doesn't make him part of the establishment.
Well, I think, look, accepting £5 million from a crypto billionaire and then not declaring it, and all these questions about his house in Clacton. Yes, he did. And all these questions about his house in Clacton and about and after he went to the moral high ground over Angela Rayner's house. Look, there are all kinds of questions about Nigel Farage. He is a politician, and people hate the politicians that they think are out for themselves. Nigel Farage is a politician like all those others.
Yeah, he didn't have to declare that £5 million gift. And if you saw that social media clip doing around the other day of some lunatic some lunatic leftists stabbing an effigy of Farage. Bearing in mind what's happened before with Nigel Farage, people throwing milkshakes on him and stuff. This clip, you probably saw it, viewers probably saw it as well. Some absolute crazed lunatic, I mean, they should be sectioned, stabbing an effigy with such venom and hate into Nigel Farage. I'm not surprised he needs 5 million quid for security and him and his family. I remember Nigel Farage about 15, 16 years ago when I knew him, even at that point when he was in UKIP, running in the European elections in 2013, 14, going for a meal in a pub with his family and his kids, and you'd have a bunch of far-left lunatics coming in and trying to destroy the pub and harassing him. I'm not surprised he needs that money, and he didn't need to declare it.
Ben,
so,
if you take, well, the parliamentary standards in Commissioner may find differently. Let's wait to see what they have to say about it. The fundamental point is, if you're going to take £5 million from a crypto billionaire, not declare it, and then ease your policy towards crypto, people will have legitimate questions about conflicts of interest. Nigel Farage, just because he works at this station and because he's a personal mate of yours, it doesn't mean that he is above the standards that any other politician should be held to, as you know perfectly well, Ben.
Nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. Yeah, question it by all means, investigate it. But, you know, yeah, that's just my take. Right, let's get the thoughts of Louise Mensch, former Conservative MP. Louise, good evening from New York. Thank you for joining us. First of all, your take on last night, and then maybe just your thoughts on the Trump-Farage comparison as well.
I don't know that he would welcome that right now. Donald Trump is about as popular as halitosis at a wedding reception at the moment in the UK, and may even have dampened down Nigel Farage's results last night because he is seen as quite close to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is not popular at the moment. I agree with your guest who said that that Nigel Farage would really like to be compared only to Nigel Farage. And I do think that last night what we saw was the beginning of Nigel's genuine campaign as the front runner, as the guy who is almost certainly going to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. However, it wasn't a completely great night for reform. Their national share of the vote dropped 5 points from this time last year. It actually dropped. And one of the papers that ran a sort of an analysis on the national vote share showed that it was Reform on 27, the Conservatives on 20, Labour, I think, on 18, the Greens on 15. This is a very fragmented landscape, and it does mean that if these votes were replicated in a general election tomorrow, Nigel Farage would lead the largest party. Yes, he'd have the #1 right to go to the King and ask to be made Prime Minister. Yes, but he couldn't govern by himself. And so I think those people that are looking for the Conservatives to come back and form a coalition with Reform are perhaps sitting pretty tonight.
Yes, I did see that poll, that graphic as well a bit earlier. There's also a separate poll, I think this is a different one, from Rawlings and Thrasher, which showed that the national equivalent vote based off the performances from last night would have Reform at 31%, the Tories on 19%, Labour 15%, Lib Dems actually pipping the Greens 14 to 13 respectively, and then the rest. I just wonder, Louise, is the big challenge from here on based on council performance? Because you've got all these new reform councils, and you're going to have to, I imagine, the government, Keir Starmer, Labour, will be doing everything in their power to kind of stitch them up and stifle them with funding and so on. Is that going to be one of the biggest challenges now for reform until the general election?
Look, I am a Tory to the marrow of my bones. I grew up under Margaret Thatcher. I will never shift. So take this with a pinch of salt because it is biased. But I would say, however, that where Reform won a lot of council seats and domination of councils in last year's elections, for example, in Kent, they've done extremely badly in the next set of elections, because although they have a lot of ideological strength and they know what they're against very much, they're not so good at governing, which is, again, why I think that Nigel, as he prepares for government, he will be looking to the Tories as a source of people that have run things before. So now you're in charge of a whole bunch of councils, people are going to hold you to account. And I think it was Harold Wilson who said a week is a long time in politics. Well, there's a hell of a long time to go before the next general election. And if I were Reform, I would be cautiously encouraged by yesterday, but it's not quite as bad, it's not quite as good for Reform as people thought. They have lost the expectations management game, and I think the key to that is that we don't see Labour immediately saying, resign Keir Starmer, because although it was a disaster, he did slightly better than expected.
Yeah, indeed. I think, well, Farage has said himself he wants Keir Starmer to stay on for the next couple of years. I think it would be a big favour. So there we go. Louise, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Great seeing you again. That's Louise Mensch, former Conservative MP. With respect to the comments made about the £5 million gift made to Nigel Farage before he stood for election, the Reform UK leader has said on this matter, "This money was given to me so that I would be safe and secure for the rest of my life." And a Reform UK spokesman said, "This was a personal, unconditional gift that was given before he was elected. We're confident everything has been declared in accordance with the rules." Right, there we go. Still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight.
You've allowed millions and millions and millions of people to come into your country that shouldn't be there. And by the way, that's all over Europe. Europe is a different place.
It's arguably the most important issue that won President Trump the 2016 election, fixing a broken border. Could it win Nigel Farage the next one? And was immigration, particularly illegal immigration, what last night was all about? A senior advisor to the president joins me shortly. But first tonight,
we're the United States of America. That's who we are.
Sir Keir Starmer just become Britain's Joe Biden, failing to take the massive, giant hint to resign. Well, he's just doubled down, the Prime Minister, saying he's not going anywhere. I'm not sure if that's wise for Labour. As I said, Reform probably loving it. I'll bring you those breaking lines next. Don't go anywhere.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'd forgotten about that clip. I think it's from the European Parliament. Is it unashamed patriotism such as that which has seen a Reform UK surge and President Trump win the election here in America? We'll discuss that very shortly. But first tonight, a GB News alert. Sir Keir Starmer has just become Britain's Joe Biden. Do you remember this?
What's Joe going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? What's he going to do? Well, here's my answer. I am running and going to win again.
Well, all we'd need for him to become Joe Biden is maybe routinely sleeping on the pebbles of Worthing Beach or something like that, as Biden did in Delaware. Well, that clip there was from 2024 when President Biden insisted he would continue to fight for the presidency again, despite a pretty disastrous 90-minute debate performance against Donald Trump, which saw him lambasted with calls from within his own party to step aside. Well, now, though, back in Britain, Keir Starmer finds himself facing a similar reckoning after a red wall wipeout. But again, just like Biden, he too is remaining defiant.
The voters have sent a message about the pace of change, how they want their lives improved. May was elected to meet those challenges, and I'm not going to walk away from those challenges and plunge the country into chaos.
And there were some absolute beauties during the rounds today. You remember when Labour won election and everybody was coming out with all sorts of silly comments about adults back in the room and so on. There was this one from journalist Andrew Marr, who said this about Labour in 2024.
And suddenly, for once, for the first time in many of our lives, actually Britain looks like a little haven of peace and stability, and that in itself is going to draw money into this country.
Very good. Well, not even he can deny the disastrous results last night for Labour.
As we sit here now, Nigel Farage is going to be the next Prime Minister. I think we are on course for a reform victory at the next election.
Long did it? Just less than 2 years? Not even that. Keir Starmer lasted about 5 minutes before voters started turning on him, and there has to be some kind of record, I suspect. Labour gets into power promising competence and stability, and the adults, as I said, they're back in the room. But within months, people are already furious again. Why? Because voters don't care about polished speeches if life is expensive, borders feel broken and politicians sound like robots. America just went through this with Joe Biden. The more the elites told voters everything was fine, the angrier voters became. Let's get the thoughts of my panel, David Smith and Niall Gardner. Joe Biden, Keir Starmer, I call it complete arrogance, actually, and I've said for weeks on this show, Niall, that Keir Starmer will do exactly this. He will hang tough, he will insist he's doing the right thing and refuse to go, just like Joe Biden did.
Yeah, I remember you saying that exactly those words in this chair a few weeks ago, and Keir Starmer is an incredibly arrogant, even delusional figure, and he's coming across right now as hugely out of touch, I think, with the British people. And there are some similarities, of course, with Joe Biden and Joe Biden's initial refusal to step down. And I think we are in a situation where you have a Labour leader who is the most unpopular Prime Minister in British history, clinging on by his fingernails to power at any cost. And Keir Starmer, frankly, comes across as a bit of a dictator, trying to stay in power, even though the British people have loudly spoken here. I expect there will be mounting calls within the Labour Party for Keir Starmer to go. But the standards of Labour are incredibly low, I have to say, in terms of removing leaders. It's much harder to remove a Labour Party leader as opposed to a Conservative Party leader.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer will continue to fight on at any cost to stay in power because he really cares about power here. I think it's sad to see a British Prime Minister who has clearly lost any significant support among the British people, still fighting on like a dictator to stay in power, actually. And,
like a dictator. He would say, Niall, that we need stability. Look at the Tories. We had PM after PM after PM. The markets went wild. Nobody knew whether they were coming or going. That's what he would argue.
And what kind of stability does Keir Starmer offer with 15% of the popular support in the UK right now? And I think that not only is Keir Starmer sinking, but also Labour, socialism is sinking in Britain today, and that's a great thing to see.
The Greens on the rise.
The socialists really are destroying Britain. There's no doubt about it, actually. And I think that it's going to take the socialists a long time to accept that the British people don't want a socialist regime in power.
Well,
in the United Kingdom. They want freedom, they want secure borders, they want an end to mass migration, and they want to see Britain once again being a truly great nation. Actually, and they want a patriotic leader leading the British people.
Well, that's what I want, and I'm no commie by any stretch of the imagination. Viewers and listeners will know that. However, the Greens are on the rise, so that's something that has to be looked at as well. Labour crashing, yes, but the Greens are on the march with Polanski, which is even more concerning, really. David, in your newspaper tomorrow, The Guardian, Keir Starmer has given an interview. It's embargoed. I can't reveal all the details just yet, but basically he said over the past decades, Britain has been subject to austerity, the financial crash 2008, Brexit, COVID, so on. He's kind of blaming all that. He's also said we must respond to the message that voters have sent us. It doesn't mean tackling right or left. It means bringing together a broad political movement, being assertive about our values, bold in our vision and addressing people's demands, unifying rather than dividing. I don't know what that word salad means. I don't know if you can help me translate it.
No, I don't either, but I think maybe that's one thing he does agree with Nigel Farage on, that the old politics are breaking down, that the simple left-right divide, where we're seeing everything scrambled in many ways, and people want to see genuine change in their lives. One thinks of that Joe Biden analogy. I mean, if Starmer was another 20 or 30 years older, of course, it'd be even closer. But like Joe Biden, Starmer is facing a challenge from his left flank, as you say, with the Greens. So that's something he's got to deal with. And I'm struck with that UK-US comparison, where in the US the two major parties have held, and all of these issues that we're talking about are still going on within the Democrats and Republicans, and of course Donald Trump was a sort of takeover from within the Republican Party. Yeah. In Britain, because of its parliamentary system, it's much more fragmented. We have at least 5 more parties if you include Scotland and Wales, and that is a different landscape.
Yeah, better system, do you think, in the UK?
Probably. I mean, the Democrats and Republicans are so big and unwieldy, and you have figures who are very different from each other in the same party.
Yeah.
There is some cause to say we should be celebrating what happened in Britain, just this diversity of, this plurality of voices, that all these parties can compete and try to have a say, but at the same time it does raise the question, is Britain becoming ungovernable, not least with Scotland and Wales being led by sort of pro-independence leaders, and England looking very complicated now.
Who was it that said that, something about democracy being the best of the worst options? Was it Churchill? Was it? No, I'm making that up. I'll try and get that quote. David Wooding's down the line, journalist and broadcaster. David, great to see you. Your reaction to last night, and also Keir Starmer, where does he go from here? David, is he like Joe Biden, just refusing to get the hint?
Well, he's on death row, isn't he, Ben? It's just a matter of time for when the final hammer is hit on him. There are now 20 of his own MPs who are openly calling for him to stand down. Ed Miliband, the Energy and Net Zero Secretary, allegedly spoke to him in the last couple of weeks and said, "Hey, boss, it's time to go. We need an orderly handover of power." So he knows his time is up. It's just a case of when it happens, really. He said, of course, in his statement that he's going to cling on, but that is a little bit delusional, because it's clear now that Keir Starmer will not be leading Labour into the next general election, but that's 3 years off. And the only reason he's really able to remain squatting in number 10, if I use that phrase, is that there isn't really a leadership candidate that the party, the parliamentary party, can unite behind. Angela Rayner's got her problems with her tax affairs. Wes Streeting, he's also got 81 members ready to back him. He's not sure he can do it out in the country, and he doesn't want to be the one to wield the knife first. And of course, Andy Burnham, the Manchester mayor, who's the favourite of most people within the Labour Party and possibly seen as a winner, hasn't even got a seat. And if he does stand for election and a by-election, he's not guaranteed to win, because even in Wigan and Manchester Tameside today, Reform did really, really well. So it's not a given that he can get into Parliament.
Yeah, great point. The front page of the Manchester Evening News, which we'll show you later on in the show, viewers and listeners, the little printout here, it says, "Cometh the hour," and it's got Andy Burnham on, rising from the ashes. But as you said, where the hell is he going to stand? There is no seats for him, no safe seats anyway. And just talking about Starmer, David, Imagine being told that it's time to go, and the tap on the shoulder from one of your concerned colleagues, here's the Manchester Evening News front page, that it's time to go comes from the likes of Ed Miliband. Deary me. Just your thoughts on this Manchester Evening News front page, David?
It's quite eye-catching, that. I mean, they're clearly being cheerleaders for Andy Burnham. They're quite proud of their mayor, who is dubbed the King of the North. The question is whether the King of the North can win the leadership at his third attempt, because he failed against Jeremy Corbyn, and he failed before that as well when Ed Miliband won. So can he do it this time round? He's got a good little plum job in Manchester, but he'll have to give that up in order to stand for election. And if he loses in the general election, he'll then be left out on a limb completely.
Oh, is he a gambling man? Is he going to punt it? David, thank you very much. Really appreciate you staying up with us. Thank you, David Wooding, broadcaster, journalist. Hilary Fordwich, friend of the show, has just texted me saying, Ben, you're right, it was Winston Churchill regarding democracy. A long quote, but the end of it was, indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for those other forms that have been tried from time to time. So there we go. gbnews.com/your say. Get your comments in. I'll get stuck into them very shortly. For the meantime, let's take a quick look at some of the other main news stories here in America. Just in, breaking news. A Utah judge has ruled cameras will be allowed in the courtroom during the high-profile murder case of Charlie Kirk. The judge in the case also moved the preliminary hearing to July the 6th through to July 10th. Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk, has been charged with aggravated murder and could face the death penalty if convicted. Death penalty by firing squad as well, I think. Elsewhere, failed US presidential candidate Kamala Harris has launched a tirade against the war in Iran. Speaking at an event in Nevada with Democrats in Las Vegas, she claimed the action was, quote, not wanted by the American people nor authorized by Congress. That's the war she's talking about. She also mocks President Trump's claims about obliterating Tehran before calling it BS. Also, elsewhere, health officials in 6 states, including Arizona, California, Georgia, New Jersey, Texas and Virginia, are monitoring cruise ship passengers for potential infections after the outbreak of a deadly rat virus, hantavirus, that began on a cruise ship stranded off the coast of Cape Verde. And back in Britain, huge showbiz news. The former Strictly star and Radio 2 DJ Tess Daly and Vernon Kay have sadly split after 22 years of marriage. Right, still ahead tonight on The Late Show Live.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম আমি সবাইকে অনুরোধ জানাচ্ছি আমার বাংলাদেশি কমিউনিটি যারা এই নিউ হোমে বসবাস করেন সবাইকে
Britain 2026. Is sectarian politics a threat to our nation? Well, the Democrats here in America experienced it. I'll tell you what happened here and what lessons Britain may want to learn from that. But before that, first tonight.
You've allowed millions and millions and millions of people to come into your country that shouldn't be there. And by the way, that's all over Europe. Europe is a different...
Well, it used to be it's the economy stupid, but is the big question now it's migration stupid? Because it's the issue that powered President Trump all the way to the White House on 2 occasions, the border. But now, as Britain faces its own migration crisis, could Nigel Farage and Reform UK be about to ride the very same wave into Downing Street, an immigration wave? A senior advisor to the President joins me live next in the studio. Back in a sec on The Late Show Live.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah,
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless, and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I felt when I was out knocking doors that the fire of voters here in Aberdeen was really focused on the Labour Party and Keir Starmer's failing Labour government.
Well, that was Jack Middleton from the SNP a bit earlier today, as Labour faces the very real threat of a total meltdown in Scotland. But elsewhere, behind the scenes, a political rescue mission is already underway to save Sir Keir Starmer, our dear Prime Minister. I'll reveal all soon. But first tonight, big question. Is illegal migration the sole reason Labour, or at least the biggest reason, that Labour received an absolute battering at the local elections? And is it the same reason that saw Nigel Farage ride the turquoise tidal wave? Because in another major blow for Labour, more than 200,000 small boat migrants, yes, 200,000, have crossed the Channel since 2018. An issue that Nigel Farage and Reform UK have continuously campaigned on.
5 years ago, I went into the Channel, I filmed the dinghies coming across, I told everybody there'd be an invasion and vast numbers would come, and I was laughed at. Well, have a look at that. It's now 200,000 that across the Channel, most of them unidentified young males of fighting age, posing a risk not just to women and girls in this country, but a risk to our national security. We will, in government, detain and deport every single one of them.
Well, here in America, President Trump also made fixing America's leaky borders a key element of his campaign. Yesterday, I spoke to his border czar, his border chief, Tom Homan, and I asked him, what would you do if you had 200,000 small boat migrants from faraway lands, you don't know who they are, where they're from, embarking on the Gulf of America, on the south coast of the United States? How would you handle it? This is what Tom Homan said. In the UK, we have 200,000 small boat migrants coming on boats, a grim milestone. It's almost 200,000. If that was happening, say, in the Gulf of America, you had rubber dinghies coming across, how would you personally deal with it?
Turn them around. If they want to claim, asylum, there's certain ways you can go to the U.S. Embassy, claim asylum. You can claim asylum, but we're not going to release you into the United States, never to appear in court again.
So they claim
in the last 11 months, not a single person has been released by the Border Patrol. And look, people say, well, the secure border, the way we went about it, is so inhumane, it's so racist. You know what? It's such crap. Because under the Biden administration, millions of people came to the border, millions of people sold everything they had, and gave it to the criminal cartels to be smuggled this country. And what happened? Border Patrol was so overwhelmed, 250,000 Americans died from fentanyl coming across the open border. Over 400 people from on the terrorist watch list were apprehended at the southern border. Sex trafficking of women and children were skyrocketed. 4,000 aliens died making that journey. That is the most inhumane thing you can do. Now that illegal immigration is down 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being raped by the cartels? How many children aren't dying? How many aliens aren't dying? How many pounds of fentanyl is it getting to kill Americans? How many no-inspected terrorists aren't getting in? President Trump, like I said, greatest president of my lifetime, got the most secure border in the history of this nation.
There you go, Tom Homan's answer. Turn them back. If you want asylum, do it the proper way. But if you're going to invade our shores by boat, rubber dinghy, you're going to get turned away. I wonder if Keir Starmer has the bottle, the cojones to do that. Would Nigel Farage have the cojones to do that in light of international law, which I argue is made up? Anyway, I'm joined now by former senior advisor to President Trump, Jason Miller. Jason, good evening. Good evening. Welcome back to the Late Show Live. For me, Jason, I don't understand why so many politicians, in Britain at least, just don't get it. So we had Brexit in 2016, that was all about migration. And here we are now, 10 years later, they still don't get it. It's about migration.
Well, sadly, a lot of Democrats in the United States don't get it either. That's why you had President Trump secure the border in his first term. Joe Biden let upwards of 15 million illegals into the country in just that 4-year stretch. And then President Trump shut it down on day one. But what President Trump's election showed that I think Nigel and the rest of the reform team can take away really just takes one election to go and stop this nonsense. Well, you have Remain in France, or it'd be your version of Remain in Mexico, and catch and release. You can't go and, folks, when they arrive in the UK, if they wash up on shore, go and give them a pat on the back, and here's a bus pass and saying, go you want. Oh, and by the way, may want you maybe report for a hearing one day. But then also need to make sure that people know that they're going to be sent back, maybe not to their own country, maybe they're going to Diego Garcia. Maybe we build a big, huge detention facility in Diego Garcia, and we make it very clear that it is a crime to illegally enter the UK. And you have to have that tough language. In fact, one of the key things that President Trump did was he started that rhetoric even before the election. He said his policies were going back in place. So it literally took President Trump 1 or 2 days to completely secure our southern border. We didn't need some bipartisan act of Congress. We just put his policies back in place. I think Nigel can do the same thing.
Well, let me ask you then, trusted former senior advisor of the president, I know he thinks highly of you. What would you advise Nigel Farage now in the years between now and the general election?
So this is the thing that I love about Nigel, because he's so far ahead of his time. This was a big component, part of Brexit, the idiocy that we saw a decade ago of the EU allowing everybody to just wander in from parts unknown. But the thing with Nigel is that I think he actually is that transformative leader that could go and stop this right away. But he needs to start this now, because it might not be the biggest issue that everyone in the UK wakes up every day saying the small boat crisis is fundamentally impacting me on a daily basis, but it's the contortions, the twisted logic that the Labour and the left go to try to defend it, to try to defend the impact on crime, the impact on extra government spending, the humanitarian crisis of all the UK residents who are being harmed by these criminal illegals that are coming into the country. That is just the ridiculousness that we see from the left.
Yeah, I think it is the biggest issue actually amongst voters in the UK. Just Jason, you're a seasoned political operator. What is the psychology behind these leftist parties, Labour, the Democrats, whoever, just lunatic leftists? Why do they try and justify and explain and square up illegal migration in a way which is totally insane to every other sort of normal thinking person? What is the psychology behind that? What are they trying to do?
I mean, ultimately, it's just a step away from their view of socialism, kind of their kumbaya, can't we all just get along moment, where, you know what, this is great. Let's go and bring those folks into the country and have other people, not me, pay for them. Let's go and have other communities, not mine, be put in harm's way. And so that's kind of the psychology that they go to. But the other thing, too, is that when people see the spending, they see the healthcare system being overrun. It's just the chain reaction of all these illegals coming into the country. It's unsustainable. And especially the point every time they double and triple down and the leftist media goes and defends it, that makes people angry. And Nigel, with that ability to speak truth to power, be loud, be declarative, say we are going to stop this. I only wish that Rishi hadn't ruined the Stop the Boats, which delivered from somebody strong, I think would have been a good slogan. We had buildings the wall. Nigel will come up with something crafty. I'm sure the turn around, don't drown might get all the lefties all too upset, but you got to take some serious dramatic action.
Yeah. Well, Rishi tried it with Rwanda, but then he called a general election that surprised everybody and got, I mean, it's a complete disaster. So I don't know why he did that. Jason, thank you very much. A viewer has just commented, Jason, I think you're talking great stuff. Come to the UK and run for some sort of cabinet position. I don't think you can, but there you go. The viewers appreciate you.
If it's legal for me to come help out Nigel when he runs, I will be there. But I love the UK, so appreciate the kind words.
Good man. I'm sure he'd appreciate your advice. Right, a Home Office spokesperson has said, this government is bearing down on small boat crossings. We've removed or deported almost 60,000 people who were here illegally. The Home Secretary has announced the most sweeping reforms to tackle illegal migration in modern times, removing the incentives that bring illegal migrants to the UK and scaling up to the return of those with no right to be here. So there we go. Everything's going to be okay. Just trust the government. Still ahead on the Late Show Live tonight.
We're losing any sense of national identity. And we're actually teaching kids at school that people like Winston Churchill, born in this palace, are bad people and that our country's history is something to be ashamed of.
Do you think Britain is ashamed of its national identity? And does Britain need a bolder American approach? Well, I'll tell you why that might have played a key role in the Labour bloodbath last night. Back in a sec, don't go anywhere.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Is Britain more divided than ever before? And just what role has sectarian politics played in the local elections? I'll reveal the lessons we can learn from the Democrats shortly. But first, let's delve into the main stories on the front pages tomorrow, starting with this belter on the Manchester Evening News, which leads with Cometh the Hour. Andy Burnham possibly returning to politics as an MP and then maybe leader of the Labour Party after the election bloodbath last night. Let's get the thoughts of Charlie Rowley and Jonathan Liss back in London. Jonathan, cometh the hour, say Manchester Evening News, but I would suggest politely that he's going to find it a pretty challenging task to find a safe seat.
Yeah, I mean, safe seats are in short supply for Labour candidates at the moment, and there's also no guarantee that the Labour NEC, the governing committee of the Labour Party, is simply going to roll over for him. So that's he runs into the same roadblock that he had already, the last time, where sort of Starmer's allies on the NEC decided to block him from coming back. Now, most people actually in Labour, concluded that he would have won the Gorton and Denton by-election if he had been able to stand, because he has name recognition, and he was probably a more impressive candidate than the Labour candidate who ended up losing. So we can't sort of run that history back, but clearly there are a lot of people in Labour who want to wait for Burnham to come back before they will support the ouster of Keir Starmer. But that might not be possible, and the NEC is not necessarily likely to play ball.
Yeah, interesting. Charlie Rowley, is there a path for Andy Burnham? And who would, if you were Kemi Badenoch, who would you prefer to see leading the Labour Party over the next 2 years?
Well, I'd actually probably quite like to see Keir Starmer stick around. The chicken and the egg sort of situation is where people always say, OK, we've got Keir Starmer, he's not terribly charismatic, but, he has been Director of Public Prosecutions, don't you know? And it could be so much worse. And I agree with that to an extent, but I'm now shifting, as I think most people are, probably, in the Labour Party will, where they've got to decide, OK, even if we have someone that isn't across their brief, that doesn't know detail, that doesn't really have policy ideas, but is a communicator, is someone that's actually got a bit of politics pizzazz about them, that can go toe-to-toe with either Kemi at the dispatch box or with Nigel Farage out on the campaign street. That is a lot better than what we've got now, because this Prime Minister doesn't seem to have the charisma, the politics, or the policies. He was leader of the opposition for 5 years, for goodness sake, and he's come into office clearly without a plan, it seems to me. Clearly, obviously, no popularity, a failed popularity, and I say that in a sense of, he thought he won a huge majority and that everybody was going to love him, and nobody quite pointed out to the Prime Minister, OK, we've got to tread a little bit carefully here, because actually we might only be here because the Tories were so bad, because they kept chopping and changing their leader. And so, but the Prime Minister, who by his own admission says, I don't do politics, or I came to politics late, which is basically him saying, OK, I've made a few errors and I haven't got the tone right here, or I've misjudged this situation, including being a bit of a doom-monger when he first came in, because he's now talking about the hope and optimism that he should have had in those first few days. It's been a disaster. But anyway, I think that's what people are now looking for, is someone that can at least have some policy ideas or comms. There you go.
Thank you, Charlie. Right, stick with us on the Late Show Live. More coming up in the next hour, including this.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Live from Washington, D.C., this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. Tonight, Britain's political establishment has taken a beating. Labour collapsing. Reform surging. Is Nigel Farage building Britain's MAGA movements, and has migration finally broken Labour? And have we just entered our own Trump era? I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live. MAGA Britain. Nigel Farage is riding a political earthquake through Britain. Labour rattled, the Tories panicking, Reform exploding. It's anti-illegal migration, anti-establishment and putting Britain first. Is Farage doing to Westminster what Trump did to Washington?
These are historic vote shifts. You can see seat after seat where the Labour vote share is down 35% and we're up 37%. It's a direct switching.
Britain's Biden. Tonight, the Prime Minister is forced to learn the same brutal lesson Joe Biden learned here in America. Voters want a leader with backbone. And now, just like Biden, Keir Starmer's facing growing calls to quit, but, surprise, surprise, is refusing to go.
Not going to walk away from those challenges and plunge the country into chaos.
Border backlash. President Trump rode to power promising to fix America's broken border. Is Britain now seeing the same political revolt as Channel crossings surpass 200,000?
The only way we will stop the boats is by detaining and deporting absolutely anyone that comes via that route.
And is part of the reason behind Reform's surge in support because, just like the Trump administration, they are unashamedly patriotic at a time when other parties feel a sense of shame about our great history.
Losing any sense of national identity. And we're actually teaching kids at school that people like Winston Churchill, born in this palace, are bad people and that our country's history is something to be ashamed of.
So is it a fragmented Britain? Labour's facing the same political backlash that hit America's Democrats over Gaza as Muslim voters turn away from establishment parties and back the Greens and independents instead. Is the growing power of sectarian voting a warning for our nation?
আসসালামু আলাইকুম আমি সবাইকে অনুরোধ জানাচ্ছি আমার বাংলাদেশি কমিউনিটি যারা এই নিউ হোমে বসবাস করেন
সবাইকে
Buckle up, Britain. I'm about to tell you why our political earthquake looks a whole lot like America's and why it's so important. Hello, good morning. Happy weekend to you. Hope you've had a great Friday. Joining me in Washington is my panel, the Washington Bureau Chief at The Guardian, David Smith, and the former advisor to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. And back home in Blighty, former Tory advisor Charlie Rowley, and journalist and broadcaster Jonathan Liss. Hello, chaps. Thank you for being with us. Right, we start tonight with a GB News alert. Patriotism is popular. Surprise, surprise. One reason populist movements keep growing across the West may be because many voters no longer believe progressive parties are comfortable talking about nationhood, borders and patriotism. Are you proud of your country? Do you love your country? President Trump understood this instinctively in America, and Nigel Farage, I argue, understands it in Britain. Well, the local election results suggest many voters increasingly see Labour as a party more comfortable discussing global issues than national identity. So here's a question for you, viewers and listeners. Has patriotism become a political advantage to those on the right? Joining me in Washington is my panel, David Smith and Margaret Thatcher. Niall Gardner. Hello, Margaret. There we go. Niall, I'll start with you. Patriotism, is it solely exclusive to the right?
That's a great...
I'm sorry, Niall.
That's a great question. Well, Lady Thatcher, of course, always with us here in spirit.
Well, that's why. I mean, she was the most patriotic person of all.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked the question because Margaret Thatcher, my former boss, was deeply patriotic. I mean, she really devoted her entire life to serving the British people, actually, and she lived for her country. And this was a, defining, I think, feature of the Conservative Party in her time. I think in more recent years, especially with the Labour government, we have a Prime Minister and also a Labour Party that frankly doesn't seem to be proud at all of Britain. In fact, I would describe Keir Starmer as very anti-British in a lot of things he has done, especially if you look at the Chagos surrender deal, for example, which was an outright act of treachery by a British Prime Minister, handing over British territory to a close Chinese ally. And this was a huge betrayal, frankly, of the British national interest. And that's an example of the real lack of patriotism on the part of Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. They suffered at the polls in part because large numbers of British people did not have any faith or confidence in their ability to lead the British people. And clearly, large numbers of Reform voters who are deeply patriotic, I might add, viewed the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer especially, and this Labour government as deeply unpatriotic. And I think this was a key factor, actually, in this election victory. And of course, Keir Starmer and his apparatchiks in the Politburo back in London won't want to hear this. But the reality is that Labour is increasingly seen as anti-British. And that was a key reason, I think, that they lost. And the British people have had enough open borders, huge numbers of illegal migrants coming into the country. And Britain has been rotting from the inside out, actually, as a result of left-wing socialist policies that are actively destroying the country. And the British people said, enough is enough. And this is why we saw this electoral earthquake last night.
Well, you can say the same, I'd argue, for Lord Hermer as well, the Attorney General. His sort of history of dealing with Britain-hating clients. Yes, I know you're a solicitor, you're a barrister, you have to represent people. But I guess, David, Starmer, Hermer, they would say, well, I do love my country, which is why I want my country to behave itself on the world stage. This is why we go to bat for people, for clients who... we argue in those cases Britain has done wrong, and we want Britain to keep its reputation on the world stage of being a noble and moral nation, and that's why in Lord Hermer's case, I guess, and in Chagos, in Starmer's case, they would push for those things.
Yeah, and I think they would say a true patriot can examine their own country, warts and all, and celebrate the achievements, also point out the flaws. Nigel Farage there was talking about even Winston Churchill. It's just moving beyond sheer hero worship to acknowledge, well, actually, Churchill did make mistakes and he's extremely unpopular in a place like Ireland and other parts of the world, and let's take a rounded view. I think a jingoistic sort of flag-waving patriotism that assumes one country is better than anyone else is dangerous. And again, we've seen that right here in America with
dangerous.
Donald Trump's isolationism.
You think it's dangerous to think your nation is better than another's?
It can. I think history.
What if that is facts?
History has shown that kind of sense of moral superiority leads to war, invasion.
Can I push back?
Other countries,
if I push back, David,
I was struck
on your
Marco
policy.
Rubio was much praised for a speech, but he did sort of sneak in there at one point. America is better than everyone else. And as somebody who grew up in Britain, I thought, really?
I'm going to politely disagree with you. In my view, Britain has so much to be proud of. I mean, a truly great nation that really led the world for centuries. And the world owes an immense debt, I think, to the British people and all of those who came before us who were at the helm of the British Empire. And the United States, of course, is a result, actually, of the British Empire. And today, the world is a far safer and better place thanks to the legacy of Great Britain and the British people today alongside the United States. And I think that the British people have so much to be proud of. And Britain should be really celebrated every day in British schools by the British people. And there's a real sense that Keir Starmer doesn't understand that, and he leads a government that actually often drags Britain through the mud. And the Chagos deal was a perfect example of that. But I think that the British people should be immensely proud of their heritage, the culture, the history. What they have achieved across the world is without comparison, I think.
What about the people on the receiving end of the British Empire, and why did they celebrate the empire's departure? They were no fans of colonialism.
I think most of them far better off as a result of British rule. I mean, India's a perfect example of that. And on the whole, Britain's imperial legacy has been one of great success, and that includes the United States, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Singapore, Hong Kong, and India, of course, the world's largest democracy by population.
I will happily defer to the judgment of the Indian people on that one.
Well, I mean, let's get the thoughts of Jonathan Liss and Charlie Rowley back in London if we get us all up. Jonathan, yes, the British Empire was, as David would say, warts and all, fine. Some terrible things happened, raping, pillaging, fine. But also, I agree with Niall. We gave some absolute gifts to the world. British industrialism, invention, ambition, spirit. I mean, you're screwing your face up. Are you ashamed of the British Empire, Jonathan?
Of course I'm ashamed of the British Empire, Ben. The British Empire was the most profoundly racist exercise in subjugating entire peoples and coercing them to work in order to boost Britain's profit. It was an extraordinary outrage then. A lot of people were against it even then. It's an extraordinary outrage now. I don't understand why the debate about patriotism constantly goes back to the empire. Of course, we can be proud about things that Britain did. Britain has done some fantastic, glorious things in the world. There's been wonderful British inventions, amazing contributions to global society, culture, and everything. I studied English at university. I'm passionate about the English language and English literature, British cinema, and all the rest of it. I just don't understand why we can't be honest about the past. For me, patriotism doesn't mean lying about your country or sugarcoating the past. Britain did some really terrible things, and we should be absolutely honest about that. No one in the world is celebrating the British Empire today. No one. For me, it is an extraordinary distortion. It's extraordinary distortion. Something you disagree with, Niall, doesn't make it a lie. I'm sorry. It's an extraordinary distortion. It's extraordinary distortion of history to say that the world is celebrating the British Empire. The British Empire, if we had experienced it ourselves, then we would not be celebrating it, as your other guests just said. The Irish people don't celebrate it. The people who were descended from the slaves that sort of powered the British Empire certainly don't celebrate it. And the United States of America that you keep talking about couldn't wait to get rid of it. That's why they declared independence from it. The idea that we also celebrate the British Empire is the most
against
such
slavery
nonsense that I could
and
only
defeated
expect
it.
to come from your
That's
mouth,
a great
Gardner,
achievement.
because I couldn't
That's a
expect it
great
to come from other
achievement.
people's.
And you should be proud of that. You should be proud of Britain's record in fighting against slavery and defeating it.
It pioneered slavery. You don't get brownie points for ending something that you started. I'm sorry. What a ridiculous argument.
They didn't start slavery.
They started the Atlantic slave
read a couple of
trade.
history books, I think, actually, and go back to school.
I actually have a master's degree in the subject. Thank you, Niall. Patronising.
Yeah, actually, I've got a PhD in history, Jonathan, for your knowledge. So
yes, well, I was the one who was just telling me to read a history book, Niall. Niall, I mean, having listened to your bilge of the last hour, my goodness, the points that I could sort of come back to you on, and I sort of have to bite my tongue for the sake of my own calm and blood pressure.
Please do go ahead, Jonathan. We're all ears.
No,
I'm going to get the thoughts of Charlie Rowley. End of round one between Liss and Gardner. Charlie Rowley, during the commercial break, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think, look, you know, everybody has a history, everybody has a past, but we should be absolutely talking up all the great things that we've done as a country and all the things that we still do. I would like to see...
What's great about us? Give me some greatness.
GB News. First and foremost, Ben Leo, is brilliant, and that should be broadcast and available in all schools, just like the BBC and Sky and anyone else. You know, competition and free choice. You know, but it should be available. It shouldn't be talked out or talked down by left-wing teachers, for example, that want to shut down some of the debates in our schools. Schools should be promoting conversation, should be promoting debate, just as it should do in the great universities that I've no doubt both Niall and Jonathan went to. But, you know, we should
be... Are you proud of the empire, Charlie?
Well, we don't have one now. But, you know, it was obviously a success.
You know what I mean? Why are you stuttering? Just be honest.
Well, it was obviously...
Stop being politically correct. Are you proud of the British Empire?
It was. I think it's done some great things, of course. Yeah. But that's a given.
What great things do you think it did?
That's a given.
What great things do you think it did?
Wealth and prosperity.
Wealth was being
distributed.
India was the richest country in the world before the empire. How can you say wealth was something? Wealth was literally something we sucked out of the empire.
But they didn't have railways, did they? Britain gave India the railways.
And how many people died building those railways? Look, obviously some things were done. They were done for the benefit of the British, not for the benefit of the people there.
Well, the benefits the people are now absolutely able to share. But you know, the idea of patriotism isn't just based on the history of the empire. It's about coming to the aid of the French in the Second World War and reminding them about it. You know, how great we were and what a military might we should be. Obviously, we don't have that today, and I put a lot of that down to this government. But you know, all of these things that we can be proud of, that we should be proud of, including our great flag, like you do in America. I love to see the flag flown above schools and institutions. We should do that back home.
I think when I eventually go back to the UK, I will be planting a St George's cross in my driveway. My wife won't let me do it. She likes to drive her being neat and tidy, not for any other reason. But I'm going to plant my St George's flag. David, just talking of flags, actually, why are Americans so more boldly, outrageously patriotic than Brits? What is it? Are we just quite humble in our behaviour like that?
I think this is a young country still. It has that novelty value, and yeah, it is so striking when you go around the US just how many stars and stripes flags you see, more than in Britain, and there's obviously it's amazing how the national anthem is played before every sports game in a way that you don't get in Britain. I think perhaps in Britain and cinemas in the 1950s you used to get the national anthem like that, but
oh really? In cinemas?
I believe so, but yeah, America still wears its patriotism on its sleeve more, and I put it down mainly to time and also the diversity of the US. There's that need to rally around some constants such as a flag.
Yeah, great stuff. Well, I heard Charlie Rowley is booked in for a Union flag tattoo on his neck this weekend. So when he next appears, we may see it in action. Let's get the thoughts of Deputy Editor at Spikes Online, Fraser Myers. Fraser, great to see you on the Late Show Live. Thank you for your company.
Thanks for having me.
Did Labour lose last night because they are embarrassed, ashamed to be patriotic about Britain, whereas the right, I guess, are sort of more proactive in being so?
Well, I think that's got to be an element of it. Certainly, the number one issue in British politics today is migration and the border. And it's actually quite extraordinary. If you look at polls across the world, we are the country that is most concerned about migration more than any other country on earth. And you can see why. You see it in the numbers of people that are pouring over the border every day. You see it in all of the asylum hotels that people now find in their towns. You see it in the crimes that are being committed against innocent people in those localities. So, of course, that is a massive issue that the Labour government hasn't been seen to get on top of, that the Labour government is embarrassed, I think, to deal with, out of a sense, I think, of political correctness partly. They also don't want to touch the ECHR because that's kind of a holy writ to people like them, whereas Nigel Farage and Reform are quite confident in saying that a confident nation has a border, and it's a border that needs to be protected. So if you're interested in that issue, which the vast majority of the public are, then it's pretty clear which way you're going to go.
Yeah, Labour have tried in recent years, but then you have the likes of Emily Thornberry, who made that now infamous comment about white van men and the St George's Cross, and then you kind of had Keir Starmer and other Labour types posing in pubs in recent years, trying to do the kind of Farage thing with a Union Jack, maybe during the football, St George's Cross during the football, and then also, yeah, just kind of other images of Starmer. Maybe was it a Labour conference with the Union Jacks just emblazoned everywhere, and it kind of, for me, I look at that and I just think, that's not you. We've seen how you perceive that kind of behaviour. Look at Emily Thornberry years ago. That's what they really think, and I just think they're being a bit fake by trying to mimic Reform in that way, or the Tories.
Yeah, I think it's the sort of patriotism equivalent of dad dancing. They're trying to copy the cool kids, but they really don't know how to do it. And so they end up saying bizarre things like, people may remember when Keir Starmer says that, he has an England flag, a huge England flag up behind his dinner table, in Downing Street. He says, I'm always sitting in front of a Union Jack, even in private. Nobody believes this stuff, and someone like Farage wouldn't have to say something so absurd for you to believe that he's patriotic. And even when they do defend patriotism, they always say things like, well, we need to reclaim the flag from the far right. Well, do you really? I don't think most people look at an England flag or look at a Union Jack and think of the far right or think of racism. That's not where our minds go. But clearly that is where the minds of many people in Labour go. And that's why you have this kind of awkwardness. They know that they can't be seen to say what they really think or to express their real instincts, which are that, patriotism is a little bit icky, a little bit gauche. They think it's something that the white working class likes, and they're kind of, we need their votes, but they're a little bit awkward. So you do end up with this kind of strange dad dancing. They wouldn't say, of course, they're not. We shouldn't pretend that the Labour Party are, 100% woke, and they're going to say that the British flag is evil and should be burned. Of course, they're not that stupid. But there is definitely still an awkwardness around the flag, around patriotism, and things like that.
Have you got a St George's Cross in your front garden, Fraser?
I don't. I don't have a front garden, but also, I am worried about being, taken down for a non-crime hate incident or something. It's a dangerous thing to do these days.
All right, I'll let you off. Thank you, Fraser. Just finally, before I let you go, just your thoughts, your analysis on last night. Why did it happen? Was it immigration? Was it the border? What is it about?
I think this is a genuinely revolutionary moment. I think people are tired of the entire political class. That's why you've seen such heavy losses for Labour, continuing heavy losses for the Conservatives. People are fed up. People want change. Yes, immigration is a huge factor in that, but actually it's across the board. The adults are supposed to be back in the room, and they've done a really terrible job. People want change.
God, yeah, the adults are back in the room. I will never forget that. Just insane. Fraser, thank you very much. Fraser Myers, Deputy Editor at Spikes Online. There you go. It's 2 out of 2 tonight, calling Niall Margaret Thatcher and Fraser Myers Fraser Nelson. I apologise profusely. Let's speak to Chair of Republicans Overseas. His name is Greg Swenson, not Greg Rosetsky, Greg Swenson. Hello, Greg. You're probably best placed to tell us about the comparisons between patriotism in the US and the UK, because you travel back and forth so often. What is the difference, and why is patriotism a bit of a mucky word for some in the UK?
Yeah, look, their patriotism is alive and well in the U.S., but I think, Ben, it's become kind of a partisan thing, and I think that's the case in both countries, where the people of the right are much more patriotic and proud of their history. This might shock you, but I agree with Niall on just about everything, and so well done, Niall, and Charlie too. But I do think that, you know, it's become a partisan thing. If you have an American flag on your front porch in America right now, they know you voted for a Republican or you voted for President Trump. And so it's really a shame that the Democrats, you know, used to be patriotic. You know, the World War II Democrats, you know, were very proud of their country. But I think so many on the progressive left, especially, they don't love America. And surely in the UK, they definitely don't love the UK. I mean, I think even the government right now doesn't love the UK. So it's unpleasant, and it's unfortunate that it's become this way. But patriotism in general is alive and well here. I can't tell you how many drinks I bought for soldiers at airports, you know, because they can wear their uniforms in the airport. So, you know, they're kind of heroes. And so it's very easy to just, you know, post up at an airport bar or any bar. And if you see men in uniform and women in uniform, you buy them around. It's like, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. There's it's an interesting observation about how they treat their military here, and again, you get military discounts. They, I would argue, are far more looked after than in the United Kingdom, and that is an indicative manifestation of just how patriotic they are. People from left and right, for the most part here, I argue, in America, are respectful and grateful to the military, and in the UK, of course, most right-thinking people love our military and our veterans, but I don't think it's focused on as much.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, and I know so many soldiers in the UK that are, you know, sort of in a way envious of how military folks are treated in the US. But I think that doesn't mean that these guys aren't brave patriots, and it just, you know, there's a little bit of envy in the way that we envy the UK military, the British military, for having all that great tradition and all the, you know, the history that we don't really have. But yeah, as far as patriotism goes, it's probably much more robust in America, and that's why I think Nigel embraced it. It's not just good politically; it's just natural. It's real. It's, you know, I don't think President Trump embraced patriotism because he thought it would win votes. He's actually patriotic, and so many people here in the U.S., you know, love their country and are very proud of the history. I thought you guys were talking about Marco Rubio earlier. You know, what a great comments he made in that press conference on Monday or Tuesday, and he really captured it well. And so, you know, and good for him. I saved it. You know, I saved it for future commentary, and so really, you know, it was great. And he really captured it well, and I think it's something that can come back in the UK. I think there's really, people want to be patriotic. They want to love their country. And it's a shame that the radical progressive left hates the West. They hate the UK. They hate America. They hate capitalism and all these great things that have liberated the world from poverty for 2 centuries now. And it's really a shame that they hate it so much.
Yeah, they should go and live somewhere where they argue they don't hate. If they hate us so much, if they hate the West, they hate capitalism, they hate governments and whatever else, go and find somewhere where you will like, and then maybe in your wisdom you'll find out that actually America and Great Britain, Britain first, is the greatest place to live on planet Earth.
Good luck with
that. You can do anything and be anything you want to do. You've got the world at your fingertips in these two great nations. Yeah, go and live in Cuba.
Yeah, see how that works out.
I think, Greg, just as a passing comment, it's also, I think we've been conditioned over the decades in the UK to see patriotism, vocal patriotism, as some kind of dirty, sort of bigoted thing, and now the likes of Tories, Reform, those of the right of the persuasion have given the green light to people, just normal people, everyday people who work hard and feed their kids and pay their taxes, that it's okay to love your nation. It's not some self-defeating thing where you have to be shy about it. You can love your nation and be proud about it.
Ben, I'm in the great state, the free state of Texas right now, and it's unbelievable, the attitude. Everyone's happy, everyone's nice, and there's American flags everywhere, and Texas flags too. It's great to see.
Yeah. Greg, thank you so much. Appreciate you as always.
Thank
Have
you,
fun in
Ben.
Texas, and we'll catch up soon. gbnews.com/your say. Very quick comment. Claire said, I have both a Union Jack and a St George's flag in my front garden. Why should I be made to feel ashamed for being a patriotic Brit? One man, no voice, said, good morning, Ben. Sat here with a fresh brew and a big box of Maltesers. Loving the back and forth with guests. Send me one, please. And Deborah said, right. F it, I'm putting my flags back up. Sick of this B word. Well done, Deborah. You go. Right, still ahead on the Late Show Live.
I'm not going to walk away from those challenges and plunge the country into chaos.
Operation Save Starmer is well underway. I'll bring you all the latest on that shortly. But first tonight.
They want to make a deal. We've had very good talks over the last 24 hours.
Amid all the politics, a war still rages on, and there's been a significant development with America's involvement. I'll have the latest on that shortly. Do not go anywhere, no breaks.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম আমি সবাইকে অনুরোধ জানাচ্ছি আমার বাংলাদেশি কমিউনিটি যারা এই নিউ হোমে বসবাস করেন সবাইকে
I keep watching that clip and 2026 Great Britain. Welcome to our new political system. Those people there, the Greens, are evolving into something much bigger than an environmental party. And I remember it years ago. The Greens used to be pro-cleaning the oceans, maybe concerns about the ozone layer, climate change, cleaning up the waterways, recycling. Far different prospects now. Zoe Garbett has won the Greens' first major morality in Hackney.
It's not old politics parties versus new parties. This is about a system of fear versus a movement of hope. Hackney voters have said loud and clear that they are sick of politicians putting profit before our planet and for supporting genocide and letting down so many people who are struggling. From our Latin American community events to walking down our streets to the estate that I live on, I've been in so many beautiful spaces throughout this campaign that show that Hackney rejects hate and division.
Mayoralty, not morality, although I'm sure that lady there is full of much morality. Let's look at the coalition forming behind the Greens. Young activists, climate campaigners, progressives and a large population of Muslim voters. There is evidence through their recent surge in support. Just take a look at some of these campaign videos here.
यहाँ रॉचडेल में अवामी हकूक का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ करने वाली जमात ग्रीन पार्टी के मेंबरान की तादाद में
Yeah, me neither. There was also this one.
Voting Green in Haringey local elections on May 7th is a vote against genocide.
As a councillor,
I will take
all appropriate steps to uphold the inalienable rights
of the Palestinian people,
support efforts to prevent
and ensure accountability for
Israel's crimes of genocide, military occupation.
Now, this isn't new at all, and Britain could and should have seen it coming because after the Gaza war, the Democrats in the United States, right here, faced a major political backlash from Muslim and Arab American voters, especially in states such as Michigan. Many voters who traditionally backed the Democrats either stayed at home or backed independents instead, or they supported protest candidates like Jill Stein. So, just why are left-wing parties across the West beginning to lose control of the coalitions they built? And, maybe more crucially, what does a more sectarian political system mean for you back home? Does it mean, Niall Gardner, that they'll be focusing more on what's happening thousands of miles away in Gaza as opposed to when your bins will be collected?
Yeah, it's a very dangerous path, I think, that we're seeing in the UK with the rise of these Green Party Islamist activists. And the Green Party basically has become today de facto an Islamist political party in terms of the causes it's advocating. It used to talk about dolphins and seals and so on. Now it's talking about Gaza and
I guess there's no suggestion those guys we just shown are Islamists. They're just Muslims.
I'm just saying that the party as a whole is supporting extremist political causes that could easily be interpreted, frankly, as Islamist-driven.
Yeah.
And I think this is a real threat and danger, actually, to the future of the UK. Unfortunately, the Green Party remains still relatively small in the UK compared to the biggest parties, but there is a rising threat of sectarian politics in Britain. We're seeing that really being encapsulated by the Green Party. They're exploiting this. They're giving it real momentum. And this is such a dangerous path for the UK to be going down. And the leadership of the Green Party should really look at themselves very, very carefully and think about whether they want Britain to be going down this path of extremism. It's massively destructive. You have candidates there who don't even speak English, and they're putting out adverts in Arabic and other language, Urdu, and they're appealing. Frankly, to voters also who, of course, don't speak any English. And you have to ask, why on earth is a British political party putting out adverts that are not even in English and are talking about issues thousands of miles away, and they don't seem to be caring. They don't seem to care at all about Britain itself. So there are fundamental problems with that.
David, is there an issue with those clips I just showed? Should people have a right to feel kind of a little bit concerned about campaign videos in foreign languages?
I think they should be more concerned about Palestinian civilians, children being killed indiscriminately, and
what, in a local election?
Sure.
And what are they going to do?
I assume the Green Party is not talking purely about foreign policy and has an entire domestic agenda as well. But what you're seeing here, I think, is an outcry because they feel, again, as on so many other topics that we've discussed, the two main parties are failing on this, and that the Labour Party has not properly engaged with issues in the Middle East. That frustration is going to go somewhere, and it's gone to the Greens. We're seeing it in America as well. It's surprising there's growing numbers of Democrats who are saying they won't vote to pay for more military support for Israel. They're listening to their base. And I mean, part of the irony of our conversation is when we discussed the British Empire, it was fine to sort of think very globally, and for voters in London to be concerned with what's happening in India or Africa or other parts. So why not think globally now about those human rights issues, those social justice issues that affect all of us in a world that's getting smaller and smaller all the time?
I guess just very basically is that what is a local councillor in Kingston upon Thames going to do about Gaza when they go into their first council meeting? What the hell are they going to do about the situation in Gaza? I mean, nothing.
I mean, I guess you can organise boycotts, you can pressure your local MP, sometimes you're listening to constituents.
Do you think Israel really cares about that? They're not paying notice to any of that.
Well, I think sometimes you're listening
to just a waste of taxpayer money.
Constituents who want this issue raised. But again, I mean, we can look at an advert as a snapshot. I agree, if that's all these candidates are talking about, then that's probably off the mark. Of course, and again, politicians in both countries are learning this the hard way. You have to combine the foreign policy focus with some of the bread and butter issues that mayors are very good at, in terms of, people don't want potholes in their streets. They don't want the litter collected, and of course these parties all face that practical test now.
I don't know when this became a thing. I mean, did it happen in the Iraq War during local elections when people who were voting for councillors maybe didn't want the Iraq War, the second Gulf War?
The big change, Ben, really is that with levels of mass migration at such high levels.
Yeah, I've never seen it in Britain before.
It's fundamentally changed the electorate in some parts of the country.
I think social media is also
in a very negative way.
People are getting videos now from what's happening in Gaza and other places in a way that they didn't so much 20 or 40 years ago.
Yeah. Well, let's get the thoughts of Green Party candidate Fahima Mohammed, who was just running in the local elections in the last 24 hours or so. Fahima, great to see you. Did you run on a Gaza ticket when you were knocking doors and campaigning? And also, kind of, again, same question to you, with respect, why? I mean, what are you going to do about Gaza when you go into your local town hall for a council meeting?
What I find right now is absolute rubbish, especially from the so-called PhD person that you have sitting there. I've sat in those meetings, right? And I've actually been part of the membership. And we discuss our local issues. We prepared and we voted on the sort of like policies and manifestos that we would like to be put across, in the Green Party. And that was also videos by other candidates that was there. If you just want to clip one thing and you just want to show one thing, then that's up to you. And if you want to be so binary and sort of like black and white thinking, again, that's up to you. That's your PhD, right? But at the end of the day, even, you know, associating Muslims with extremists just because we are Muslims, or associating us with, like, you know, Islamists just because we're Muslim is absolutely, again, horrific, horrendous, you know, absolutely inflammatory. And this is the kind of rhetoric that is not patriotic. This is the kind of rhetoric from the right that we get that actually makes us feel like we don't want to be here because of you actually othering us. I am very patriotic. If I was to have, no, I'm finished. If I was to have a flag, for example, I am told that I don't belong. So at the end of the day, what do you want me to do? And someone who has a flag, they put it in my face like as if it does not belong to me. So again, this is absolutely ridiculous.
Actually, to you. Yeah, if I could I respond to your attacks earlier? You know, a party that puts out advertisements in a foreign language, actually, and that talks about you know, issues, you know, thousands of miles away. I mean, you can't claim to be a patriotic party. And yes, there are a lot of Islamist extremists running around in the Green Party, actually. There are an awful lot.
Where's your evidence for that?
And
where is your evidence? Don't make this inflammatory.
The extremism of your party.
I cannot believe you're talking about this
un-British,
on live TV.
Un-British, actually.
No, your attitude is absolutely horrific.
It doesn't believe in Britain at all, actually. It doesn't believe in Britain.
Fahima, can I ask you a question?
It's an extremist far left wing, an increasingly Islamist.
No, it's not. No, it's not. We have a Jewish leader, we have a Muslim deputy leader, and we have plenty of people who are there representing modern
I'm glad you mentioned
Britain.
your deputy leader, Fahima. 1 second. Well, I'm glad you mentioned your deputy leader, Mohsin Ali, because after October the 7th, he said that people should support the rights of indigenous people to fight back, and they are not victims. Do you support that statement from Mohsin Ali, your party's deputy leader?
We don't support everything that everyone says, and at the same time, I'm not here to argue about individuals that are not here to defend themselves. Okay, I'm not here to argue about people that are not here to defend themselves. But you are making inflammatory, divisive, you know, sort of accusations with absolutely baseless
that's
evidence.
Inflammatory.
Will you condemn terrorism? Will you condemn the October 7th attacks? Will you do that?
Excuse me, we're not here to talk about that. Why do I have to do that? Do you condone the illegal wars? Do you condone anything that is, you know, from the white, you know, far right, or just, you know, people that are paedophiles who are also from maybe a different background? Come on, are you going to condemn people from the churches? Are you going to condemn people from everywhere? Why is it that you have to ask me these questions?
It's disgusting.
You are absolutely disgusting, and it's absolutely inflammatory the way in which you're actually speaking right now. I mean, I cannot believe that you're talking like this and getting away with it. I'm speaking from a point that
at the end
freedom
of the day,
we are in a democratic
All right.
Free country.
No, we are in a democratic society, and we are following the law of the land, and we are in a process where we are allowed to actually have our voices. And if you see someone speaking a different language, don't just assume that they don't speak another language. It means that they have several languages that they can speak to as well, okay? That is just a very uneducated way of looking at someone speaking another language as well.
Okay, I've got it. Fahima, the reason I asked you that question about Mohsin Ali is because we're talking about, you were saying, give me some examples of extremism in your party. So I said, well, your deputy leader made some comments which he had to defend about October the 7th. He also made other comments about a Leeds rabbi who he called an animal for serving with the IDF. I mean, by that metric, all Israelis are animals because they all served with the IDF at some point. So that's the reason that you were being asked that question. It's not because you're a Muslim having to defend all Muslims against claims of Islamism.
When he first came on, before I came on, he was implying that, you know, this Green Party is Islamist and Brotherhood-like and, you know, extreme. So it was before I even came on. And I'm not here to speak on anyone's behalf, especially when they're not here. They're not here. And at the same time, we can talk about reform. They have had people that have actually come on board and now elected that have said Islam is a cancer, or, you know, anti-Semitism anti-Semitism is something that they don't actually have. And at the same time, they've also had candidates that were racist, that were also talking about black Nigerians in a particular way as well, which I cannot repeat live on TV. So don't come and tell me this is only one-sided. And don't come and tell me just because you see a Muslim or see a brown face that all of a sudden you've got a free bloody,
you won't even condemn terrorism. It's disgraceful. It really is appalling.
Absolutely
shameful.
Wrong, and it's so rude and uneducated
Let's get
of
the others
you.
involved.
Shameful.
Okay.
You're really uneducated.
You're very shameful. You're absolutely disgusting,
Jonathan?
actually.
Jonathan?
Ben, I'm completely speechless at Niall. There is no barrel that this man will not scrape, no barrel of indecency. He is honestly one of the most horrific people I've encountered on this channel. The racist garbage that I have to hear from this man's mouth about people not speaking English, no evidence for that whatsoever, about people not loving. I'm not saying he's racist. I'm saying the garbage that's spewing from his. I'm saying that the garbage that's spewing from his mouth is racist, in my opinion. It's my freedom. He's a free speech warrior. It's my freedom to say that. I'm not saying you're racist. I don't know what's in your heart, Niall, and I'm not particularly interested in it either. So look, when you are saying that there are some people who don't love their country because they disagree with you, or they don't speak English because they happen to broadcast messages in different languages because it's a multicultural society, or when people have the audacity to talk about things that are happening far away, supported by a government, you would never in a million years, by the way, criticise a Jewish candidate for wanting to support Israel, for example, or if a conservative candidate wanted to say that we fully support what Israel did after 7th October, you would never dream of saying, well, that's not patriotic because they're talking about something that's happening 1,000 miles away. You wouldn't dare do it. But of course, you're only too happy to do it when it's Muslim people, when it's left-wing people doing it on the other side, because you actually don't have any principles. You are a total hypocrite. You actually don't have any consistency at all. You only believe in free speech for your side, and that's always been the case, by the way.
Let's try and keep it civil. It's 1 in the morning.
He started it.
You sound completely unhinged and crazy, Jonathan. So let me respond.
It takes one to know one, mate.
Accusation of racism it's absolutely outrageous, Jonathan. Really is, and you need to take
it's
that.
outrageous to say it rather than to be accused.
Let me just say,
you can't take it.
You have the Green, you've got the Green Party deputy leader supporting the October 7th terrorist attacks, and you have a Green Party.
No one supports any terrorism. Don't make these kind of accusations, okay?
Doesn't even condemn the October 7th attacks and the statements made by the deputy leader of the Green Party.
Do you condemn everything that's in the Epstein files that is related where you are? Come on.
As for people who...
One at a time.
As for people in the UK who don't speak English, well, what are they doing in the country in the first place?
They do speak English. They speak more than one language. Do you not understand that?
Actually,
they're bilingual.
Isn't that a basic requirement to live in England or the United Kingdom?
Okay, last word for Charlie Rowley. You've been sitting there patiently. Charlie?
Can I... Yeah, just a couple of points of observation. I mean, I think, look, I've got absolutely no skin in the game when it comes to politics anymore. I'm a has-been, a total former advisor, so there's no way back for me. But politics is a numbers game. It always has been. You've got to get the votes. And there will be parties, obviously, clearly from some of the adverts that we've seen, the political ads, where there are communities that obviously speak a particular language that is not English that are being targeted for those votes. Now, we can have a conversation about whether that's right or whether that's wrong. I personally think that's wrong because it shows that there is diversity in the country, but it is separated or separated throughout the country. So we don't live in a happy, go-lucky, kumbaya style country where we can all get along. People are separated, and that's why you see some of the divisions that we have in the country. But Reform was mentioned there. Reform have had candidates that have said some awful things. They have been dealt with, and their explanation has been, and there'll be more to come, because when you have a new party and a new movement, it attracts all kinds of people that want to get involved in politics. The Green Party are suffering from exactly that, but the difference, I would argue, between some of the more established parties, whether it's the Tories, whether it's Labour, whether it's now Reform, who have had a very, very good night tonight, the Green Party were more focused its own leader, for example, in criticising two police officers who put on that uniform, put their lives on the line day in. You've spoken enough. You put their lives on the line day in, day out. Where your party leader was more critical of detaining a terrorist suspect rather than condemning the anti-Semitism that we've seen on the rise in this country. That shows where your party's at, I would politely suggest. But also, when you have these extreme candidates, as you will have in the Greens, as we have had in all other parties, the response that we've heard from some of your deputy leadership is, well, they're going through a disciplinary process. You just suspend them. You've got the action that you can take, and you're refusing to do that. So I think that's all we need to know about the Greens at this moment in time.
Well, thank you for raising what you did, and I do appreciate the way in which you framed that, much more respectable than your former, or your person next to you, because it was much more sort of, higher level. But what I'm trying to say is right now, we've also had reform that had sectarianism, candidates, and they did actually have a bus full of Sikhs that came out in their Gorton and Denton sort of by-election as well, and no one said anything about that. We've had the Conservatives that had Indians with, speaking Urdu and singing, and when David Cameron went in there and also advertised, but no one said anything about that either. So it's not something new, and it's not something to say that they don't speak English, and it's not something that, we need to actually have a problem with. It just means that people are integrating, and they're also, doing this both ways.
That's
and it
not
doesn't
integrating.
mean that
We've got to move on, but moving to another country and delivering your campaign videos and speeches in your native tongue from far away, whatever country you came from, that's not integrating. That's being isolationist. Integrating is speaking English.
Well, they're doing all languages, not just one. It just shows that they speak more than one language. Do you not understand that? If some of their constituents actually have more than one language, what's the problem? It's like how you'd have Spanish even in America, because a lot of people speak Spanish. They have, lots of different places where they would actually do that. So there's nothing wrong in it. You just have a problem when you see someone who's brown face or from a particular faith. Very simple.
Yeah, it's because we're all racist. Yeah, there's just
you said it, not me. I'm just saying that's how you pull it out, because you have the empathy, but you don't have the outrage.
All right. GBNews.com/your say. Just in, a Utah judge, this is news dropping here in America, a Utah judge has ruled cameras will be allowed in the courtroom during the high-profile murder of Charlie Kirk. The case also moved the preliminary hearing to July the 6th through to July the 10th. Tyler Robinson has been charged with aggravated murder for the murder of Kirk and could face the death penalty by firing squad if convicted. Also, failed US presidential candidate Kamala Harris has launched a tirade against the war in Iran. Speaking at an event with Nevada Democrats in Las Vegas, she claimed the action wasn't wanted by the American people nor authorized by Congress. She also mocks President Trump's claims about obliterating Tehran before calling it BS. Also, health officials in 6 states, including Arizona, California, Georgia, New Jersey, Texas and Virginia, are monitoring cruise ship passengers for potential infections after the outbreak of a deadly rat virus, hentavirus, that began on a cruise ship stranded off the coast of Cape Verde. And back in Britain, some showbiz news. The former Strictly star and Radio 2 DJ Tess Daly and Vernon Kay have split, sadly, after 22 years of marriage.
I'm not going to walk away from those challenges and plunge the country into chaos.
Right, it's Operation Save Keir Starmer. Cabinet ministers are rallying behind the PM after last night's election bloodbath, leaving the embattled leader facing a major leadership crisis. There's John Healey, Heidi Alexander, who else is there? Rachel Reeves. John Healey, not the result we wanted. Heidi Alexander there saying today's results are brutal. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor. These are tough elections. Keir Starmer won a mandate to change our country. We must get on with delivering the mandate. Mike Tapp, the Immigration Minister, he was banging on about Keir Starmer pretty much being the man for the job. The PM's going nowhere, quite rightly. Steve Reed, he took to X to say, pretty much the same thing. Support for Keir Starmer. Let's get on with the job. The last thing the country wants is the Labour Party. To talk about the Labour Party, Peter Kyle, the MP down in, is he Hove, my neck of the woods? He said, losing our Prime Minister is the very opposite of turning in on ourselves. Darren Jones as well, kind of the mouthpiece for Keir Starmer. He was pushing the same party line with some big essay on X. There we go. And in the last few hours, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has written a devastating night in Birmingham and across the country. Good public servants, colleagues and friends have lost their seats. This was a verdict on us, not them. The PM has rightly said we must do better. It is a privilege to serve the British people and we must live up to it. And also just in, Health Secretary Wes Streeting has weighed in as well, expressing his support for the PM. Take a look.
There's no doubt that the voters have sent us a clear message in England, Scotland and Wales that the Labour government is not yet delivering the change that people voted for. And we have to take responsibility as the government for the fact that good Labour people across England, Wales and Scotland have lost through no fault of their own. Here in Redbridge, we're showing how Labour can win, not by trying to be someone else, but by being Labour. That's how we've seen off opponents to our left and to our right. That is how we will hold this borough with a majority, and it's also how we've achieved such good results in Ilford North, where we've gained seats from the Conservatives and beaten the leader of the Redbridge Independents. So I'm very proud of this team. I'm very proud of our leader. I'm very proud to be part of the team here. This is how Labour wins, as Labour, as a team. That's what the Prime Minister will be setting out, I'm sure, on Monday, and he'll have my support.
I'm joined now by journalist and broadcaster Candice Holsworth. Candice, good morning to you. Thanks for your company. What does Keir Starmer do when he waltzes into the office on Monday morning at 9 a.m. in Downing Street?
Well, if it's the Keir Starmer that we're used to, he'll let someone else take the rap for all this. I mean, there's no way that he'll blame himself. There have been rumours that he might be looking to reshuffle, so maybe he'd get rid of Rachel Reeves, which is interesting because I think up until now, people have sort of seen him and Rachel Reeves as twinned, that if he goes, she goes, if she goes, he goes. But I think at this point, they're so desperate, he might even try it. There were also rumours that he might bring back Angela Rayner, which is also very interesting. I mean, I don't know what she would do. I think she's still so damaged as a brand herself. I do think that Labour are just in denial. I don't think they really understand what's happened in the local elections, why people have turned against them so much. And I think Keir Starmer just has absolutely no feeling for what's going on in the country. I think they've been thinking up until now that they haven't been left-wing enough. But I think these results with reform, I mean, they just put paid to that idea. That's not what the electorates are in the mood for. They're not in for more left-leaning policies. Actually, it seems like there's a big rightward shift.
Well, yeah, potentially, but then you look at the rise of the Greens as well. So is it, I mean, you're saying there that Labour shouldn't lurch to the left, or maybe they should because the Greens are surging. They didn't do too badly last night.
They did okay, but I think that they performed below expectations. I'm sure this anti-Semitism scandal has hurt them. I mean, it'll be very interesting to plot it out on a graph to see where all the events leading up to the election and how that affected their support. I also do think that the Greens tend to do well in very specific circumstances, so in urban areas with young people, and I think that beyond that, especially in Labour's heartlands, I think they have very little appeal.
OK, and just in terms of how Labour regroup here, what do they need to focus on policy-wise? Forget who the leader is. What do they need to sort of try and sort out and prioritise? The border, the small boats, the economy? I mean, there's so many things.
I know. Well, they've sort of tried to sort out the border, but nothing they've done has worked. So they understand that they need to do that, but they just don't know how to do it. I think all the successful models that around the world that have worked, like in the US and Australia, they never, ever, ever do them. I also think, welfare spending is completely out of control, but that's very much in the DNA of Labour, and I can't imagine the backbenchers would be able to stomach that. Could they stomach that? Cuts in welfare spending? I don't think so. I don't know if Labour could... Look, I mean, it sounds obvious to say it, but I think that they're going to be like deer in the headlights after this.
Yeah, well said. Candice, thank you so much. Really appreciate you staying up with us. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend, whatever you're up to. Right, more coming up in the next hour, including another council snatched by reform. Any guesses where it is? And who is now the largest party in Scotland? I'll see you in a sec.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates,
lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Live from Washington, this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. MAGA Britain. Nigel Farage is riding a political earthquake through Britain tonight. Labour rattled, the Tories panicking, Reform exploding. It's anti-illegal migration, anti-establishment and putting Britain first. So what is Nigel Farage doing to Westminster? Is he doing what President Trump did to Washington?
These are historic vote shifts. You can see seat after seat where the Labour vote share is down 35% and we're up 37%. It's a direct switching.
Meloni meltdown. Marco Rubio is dispatched to Italy as the Trump administration scrambles to calm tensions with the country once seen as America's most politically aligned ally in Europe. Elsewhere, the truth revealed. Are we alone in the universe? The Department of War publishes the UFO files, claiming that Apollo astronauts saw mysterious objects near the moon. Elsewhere in the Middle East, the ceasefire hangs by a thread after fresh US airstrikes in the Gulf. Is America sliding back towards all-out war with Iran?
The normalizing of their controlling of international waterways is both illegal and it's just something that's unacceptable. And the world has to start asking itself, what is it willing to do if Iran tries to normalize a control of an international waterway?
Hello, I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Hello, good morning. Welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me in Washington is my panel, the bureau chief at The Guardian here in DC, David Smith, and former advisor to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, and back home in Blythe, Charlie Rowley and Jonathan Liss. Thank you both for your company. Right, some breaking news to bring you all in the past couple of moments. Reform UK have gained a 7th council from Labour. This just in. In the early hours of this morning, they've gained 31 seats in Calderdale, West Yorkshire, adding to the 3 councils they already had. Labour lost 18 of their 26 seats, with the Tories down to 10 and the Liberal Democrats down to just 4 councillors. Reform UK had already gained Gateshead, St Helens, Sandwell, Sunderland, Thurrock and Wakefield from Labour. The Scottish National Party, meanwhile, will be the largest party in the Scottish Parliament, but has once again failed to secure a majority. With all the votes counted, John Swinney's party has secured 58 seats, which is a drop of 64 seats from 2021. Labour has not only failed to win new seats, but actually lost 4 in the process, and that brings them to 17 seats, meaning they came joint second with Reform. The Tories were utterly decimated, losing 19. The Greens also made gains, winning a total of 15 seats, as did the Lib Dems on 10. In terms of who will govern Holyrood, the SNP could seek to form a minority government or make a formal agreement with the fellow pro-independence Scottish Greens. The final results in Scotland in the Highlands and Islands saw 2 Greens elected, 2 from Reform UK and 1 each for the Tories, Lib Dems and the SNP. GB News will continue to bring you unrivalled coverage throughout the day tomorrow. But for now, in other news, actually, let's get a quick word from Jonathan Liss and Charlie Rowley. Charlie Rowley, another win, Calderdale, West Yorkshire, Reform sweeping to council victory.
Yeah, again, and it'll be one that the Reform UK Party want to point to, taking back what was dubbed the red wall, then it was the blue wall under Boris Johnson's 2019 Conservatives. It's gone red again at the 2024 general election. But now, you know, it seems that Reform are breaking through in those heartlands. These are constituencies who also voted Brexit over 10 years ago, so still have this view, I think, that, you know, Westminster and its leadership, political leadership, has forgotten about their communities, have left them behind, and people are just crying out for change. And I think all they want to see in their politicians is delivery. You know, they want their political leaders, whoever they are, they want them to be authentic, they want them to be comfortable with themselves, but they just want to see results.
Yeah, Jonathan Liss, another, more news coming in, more success for Reform. Also the news from Scotland as well.
I mean, Scotland is such a huge story, isn't it? I mean, if you just cast your mind back a couple of years to that sort of, you know, imbroglio around sort of Nicola Sturgeon's ex-husband and, you know, these sort of allegations of corruption in the SNP, and the SNP was just sort of plunging in popularity, and then you had sort of, you know, Labour rising, and then the 2024 election where, you know, Labour was once again the dominant force in Scottish politics, and so projecting to win Holyrood, and then the National Party just completely screwed it up for them. So if you were sort of, you know, the Scottish Labour leaders, you would feel quite annoyed, to say the least, with Keir Starmer and what the National Party's done, because the Scottish Labour was absolutely on course to retake Holyrood as it had done, as it had ruled, you know, from the beginning of devolution. You know, it's a hugely impressive achievement from the SNP that they've managed to lose so few seats comparatively, and they've been in power now for, I think, sort of 17 years, or actually 19 years, which is just, you know, almost unprecedented these days in British politics. So that is a huge story. I don't know what it means to Scottish independence, because it looks as though they haven't got a majority, and it's unlikely that they will be able to sort of pressure Westminster to have that independence referendum. But I'll tell you one thing, if Reform gets in nationally, the calls for independence will be absolutely will be sort of sirens, clarion calls for independence, even though that will come at some considerable economic pain. Nigel Farage is not popular in Scotland. Now, in terms of, you know, Reform winning elsewhere in the country, as we've said many times, Ben, as you and I have talked over the years, Reform is clearly a rising force in British politics. They are on course to do incredibly well, maybe not to win an overall majority in the next general election, but certainly to win the most number of seats. As I say, 3 years is a long time. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 years. But clearly the other parties need to find some way of responding. They haven't been able to do that so far. But one thing, I suppose I would say this, wouldn't I? But the old Labour policy Party of trying to win over reform voters is not working. It is not going to work. Those voters will vote for the full fat version of what they want. That's reform, not sort of the that slightly slimmed down version. Labour needs to actually decide what its values are. Is it a centre-left progressive party that actually wants to make life better for working people, that wants to go back to its roots of having the nationally owned industries, for example, that's actually very popular with the public supports rail nationalisation, which Labour has actually done, and the nationalisation of, say, water utilities. Water is the worst sort of privatisation that we've had in this country. These are things that actually would appeal to people. Labour has lost its focus, it's lost its way, and needs to rediscover that, because the Greens are coming for Labour's left base, and that is, it's no longer a promise, it's no longer a threat, it's a promise.
Yeah, Charlie, just lastly to you, it's a sticky wicket for Labour because it's death by 1,000 cuts. You've got the Greens on the left and you've got Reform on the right. As for, I mean, what do they do?
Well, exactly. No, I think it's over. I mean, the only way that the Labour Party can come back is if, as I said before, they actually start delivering on the things that they say they're going to do, so growing the economy and stopping the boats or smashing the gangs and seeing those numbers come down. But it's not going to happen. But Jonathan raised a good point there, just very quickly, because, you know, you've got now Scotland. Yes, the largest party could form a minority government again is the SNP that wants to break up the UK. Plaid ahead in Wales, you know, again, who wants to sort of leave the United Kingdom. What we need now is a party, if it wants to break through or continue to dominate in the polls, is a patriotic party. Now, that's why Nigel Farage is doing so well, I think. When you have all these doomsayers who talk the country down, the union down in particular, who want to break off and blame Westminster and blame everybody else and say, oh, no, we either need more illegal migration or not. You know, now is the time where, and this is why I think Reform does so well, because it is the most patriotic party. It wants to keep this great country together.
Well, so do all the other main parties, Charlie, come on.
Well, you wouldn't,
I guess the SNP...
Labour is the party of the UK as well. Labour doesn't want to have a referendum in Scotland or Wales.
No, but it's not talking up the country, is it?
That referendum, they said once in a lifetime, was it Nicola Sturgeon? Well, you're never getting another chance again. Once in a lifetime, Scotland
No, they didn't say... Ben, wait, Ben, they didn't say that. Ben, they didn't say that. They said unless there were, you know, a material change in circumstances, which the Brexit referendum obviously was, and that's why they changed their stance on that. You don't have to agree with independence. I'm not expressing a view on independence either way, but it was a material change in circumstances. And the Scottish population voted, I think, in 4 subsequent national elections for an SNP manifesto pledge of having a new independence referendum. Scotland has every right to ask if it has self-determination and what that means.
They didn't like the answer, Jonathan.
No, that's not Ben.
Nicola Sturgeon.
It's not happened.
I've just Googled it. Hang on a minute.
Well, that must be right then.
They said the vote was once in a lifetime and once in a generation. 2014, multiple times. With the 2013 Scottish Government White Paper calling it a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
Yeah, unless there was a material change in circumstances. You can Google that too.
They tried to do the same with Brexit
You can Google that. You can Google that too. Brexit was a material change in circumstances. Brexit was a material change in circumstances, Ben. Whether you like the answer or not, it was a material change in circumstances. And the Scottish people then voted for a new referendum, which they weren't given, and they have every right to be angry about that.
You ain't getting it. We're stronger together.
Well, let the Scottish people decide that, Ben. I'm not expressing a view on it either way, but let the Scottish people decide that. They have the right to decide their own future. The union is not a prison. They have every right to secede from it if they want to.
My mother-in-law's Scottish. She wants to stay part of the UK.
OK, well, I'm very happy for her, but she's one person. She doesn't represent everyone. Again, that's not an argument.
She'll tell me off. Right. There we go. Jonathan, Charlie, thank you. Let's move on to our main news this evening in America. The US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has tonight put himself slightly at odds with President Trump, his boss, during a trip to Rome as he tries to repair America's relationship with Italy, because he's just declared himself, quote, a strong supporter of NATO. That, of course, follows public spat over the use of military bases for America's military and their action in Iran. The Italian leader, Giorgia Meloni, has also described her meeting with Rubio to reporters as productive and frank between the two nations, discussions that took place, that both understand how necessary it is for each of them to defend their national interests. David Smith, is this Rubio going above his boss's head, Trump's head, by saying he believes in a strong NATO? And we've heard for weeks Trump, sort of rubbishing NATO. So
sure, although there are moments when Trump himself says he supports NATO, and that's why he's been pushing its members so hard to
increase their percentage of GDP spending.
Tough love.
Indeed, and some of them do, and he gets on very well with the Secretary General of NATO. But I suspect somebody somewhere could spin a narrative here about this being just the latest maneuver in Marco Rubio's 2028 presidential campaign. If you look at, as we touched on earlier, he gave this White House briefing this week that impressed a lot of people.
Were you there?
Some of the clips went viral. No, and just generally he got a lot of praise and people saying, he's way ahead of J.D. Vance. He's much more credible and appealing to some of those more traditional Republicans who perhaps grudgingly voted for Donald Trump, but he's a bit too wayward for their liking. And to use another phrase of the night, they think Marco Rubio would be the adult back in the room. However, I've also heard from some sources that Rubio himself has absolutely no intention of running for president, and
really,
it's not on his agenda. Obviously, time will tell.
Oh, I don't believe it. He has said that he would be a running mate to Vance. In either order.
That is also a possibility. So you could look at this through that lens. He's certainly an incredibly busy man right now, and he's trying to sort of rebuild that relationship with the Pope and to an extent NATO. I think there are plenty of Trump supporters who think Rubio's done a good job as Foreign Secretary. We've come a long way from little Marco in the 2016 campaign.
Yeah.
Critics of Trump, though, would say he's a complete sellout. He's
Rubio.
Yes, he's kind of sacrificed his Republican principles, for example, on issues such as Russia, purely for the job and to flatter Trump, and maybe his soul has shriveled and died in the course of it.
Yeah, Trump does call him the greatest Secretary of State in the history of the nation, Niall.
Yeah, I think the Trump-Rubio relationship is actually very. It's very warm. It's very positive, and I think that the dynamic actually has been very successful between the president and the Secretary of State. I was in The Hague last year for the NATO summit, where President Trump really dominated, and I think that Trump would much rather be the champion of NATO rather than the destroyer of it, and he wants a stronger NATO alliance. He of course, is very critical about the weak-kneed response of NATO allies towards the war against Iran. But the reality is that President Trump wants, as part of his legacy, a far stronger NATO alliance, a far stronger transatlantic alliance. He wants to see a NATO alliance that is actually able to fully defend itself against the Russian threat. And so I don't think Trump is anti-NATO. And so Rubio's comments, in fact, will I think be welcomed by the White House. I don't think there's a divide there. But as you mentioned, Ben, Donald Trump does have a tough love message for the NATO alliance, and he wants NATO to be far stronger. He also wants NATO allies to stand with the United States against the enemies of the free world, including the brutal and barbaric and murderous regime in Iran.
Well, even Georgia Maloney, was having a crack at Trump. Was it this week?
Yeah, actually, a couple of weeks ago.
Is Rubio being sent to clear up Trump's mess, i.e., with Pope Leo and then Maloney whilst he's there as well? Is that what he's doing?
I think that so Georgia Maloney is by far the most, I think, important conservative figure in Europe in office today. She's a big figure on the European stage. She has had, overall a very warm and friendly relationship actually with President Trump. There's been a disagreement over Iran, and I expect that Rubio's meetings have largely focused on the Iran issue. But I don't think there's some big divide actually between Rome and Washington overall. And Maloney remains a very strong ally for the United States, especially with regard to issues such as dealing with mass migration, securing borders, cultural issues, the defense of Western civilization. And Maloney, I think, remains a hugely important figure in the eyes of the White House.
Yeah, Trump was asked on April the 30th whether he'd consider putting troops out of Italy and Spain, and the president replied, yeah, probably, why shouldn't I? Italy hasn't been of any help to us at all, said the president. Let's get the thoughts of Victoria Churchill, US political reporter at the Daily Mail. Victoria, are you a fan of Rubio? Is he the greatest Secretary of State the US has ever seen? And same question to you, has he been sent to clear up President Trump's spilt milk?
Well, always great to be on with you, Ben. I think what we're seeing here today is that Rubio is being treated as the diplomat that he is. Overall, they have really put Rubio in these places, in rooms where the administration needed to smooth some kind of ideas over. And I think that this is just the latest iteration of that. And I also believe that overall, this is good for the administration to have him there. I think, as we've looked at in other scenarios where they've sent J.D. Vance, sometimes relations have worsened by the time that Vance has left in a number of places where he's been sent over the last almost 2 years. And so, I think Rubio is one that knows how to talk the talk, but also walk the walk. And, you also have to, of course, think back to his time in Congress. He was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. So this is an area that he has vast experience in, going back to his days on Capitol Hill. And he's also had experience with global leaders, welcoming them to Washington for a number of years. And his role has just gotten more and more higher profile throughout the years that he has served in these positions. And I think that Trump knows that. Trump knows that Rubio overall, I think, is going to carry his message and that he's not going to step out of line. And so also, I think it's interesting to note, actually yesterday I was at a banquet with Susie Wiles, and, she mentioned, somebody asked her about, kind of message testing for the White House, where they'll sometimes have individuals throw out ideas and they'll use that to see how Americans respond in polling and what have you. So, I wonder if this is some potential message testing that the White House is testing out. Of course, always talk about the fact that the midterm elections are going to be tumultuous, but I also think that a lot of Americans are skeptical about recent military actions by the U.S. And so this may be a way of kind of not necessarily pulling that back, but maybe seeing a way to kind of moderate some of the rhetoric that we're seeing coming out of the White House.
Was Rubio part of the attack on Zelensky in that infamous Oval Office meeting last year? And also, where has Vance gone? I know he's been tasked with this fraud portfolio. It kind of feels like he has been deliberately relegated. And what's your take on that?
Well, Rubio's been on the campaign trail. I know just earlier this week, he was actually voting himself in his home state of Ohio. They had their primaries there. And I know he made a couple other stops across the Midwest that day as well. I think that that is good that he is being sent out on the campaign trail, because also some of the, negative feedback that the administration has gotten is that they're actually too focused overseas and that they need to be more focused domestically. And so I think this is their way of seeing, this is Rubio's job, right? He's Secretary of State. So he is the one that should be out there versus Trump and Vance should be focused more domestically. We've also covered over the last couple of weeks how Susie Wiles has pretty much told all other cabinet secretaries not to travel internationally and to focus their efforts domestically. And so I think, we're having Vance really carry that torch forward is important. I think he's doing that great job here domestically while leaving Marco to go around the world and actually do his job as well.
Just finally, what was this Susie Wiles thing last night? And for British viewers and listeners, Susie Wiles is the President's Chief of Staff, very influential. What was it, Victoria? And you said her message was what? Focus more on domestic matters ahead of the midterms, right?
Well, this is something she's been saying particularly over the last few weeks with trying to limit international travel for cabinet secretaries, because there's been some media reports that have come out kind of how necessarily those travels haven't really led to much for the average American voter. But the event last night with Susie Wiles, she got an award, a Women of Valor award from the Independent Women's Forum at a gala here in Washington, D.C. And, I wrote a couple stories about it for the Daily Mail. It was quite a rare appearance because, as opposed to some other people that have historically taken the chief of staff role at the White House, Susie has preferred to take more of a backseat role. And, really even on the campaign as well. Of course, she was kind of co-campaign manager with Chris LaCivita, and he was kind of the attack dog. He was the one out there. Well, she was, kind of the brains of the operation, but more behind the scenes. And, she was on stage for a good 20-30 minutes having a discussion with the woman that leads the organization that gave her this award. So it was a rare appearance by her, and Trump was not there in person, but he made some video remarks calling her the greatest chief of staff. So, she's got the greatest chief of staff and Rubio's got the greatest secretary of state title. But there were plenty of other cabinet secretaries there as well. So it was a great night here in DC yesterday.
Yeah, I'm just reading some reports from last night. I forgot as well, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, Susie Wiles, quite recently, so she's still working and doing these events and running the administration whilst undergoing treatment for that, so we wish her well on that. She was asked about how she keeps up with President Trump's schedule, but bearing in mind he infamously doesn't sleep a lot and he's sort of posting on Truth Social at all hours of the night about this, that and the other. She said, "I'm not one of those people that doesn't need to sleep. I actually do sleep very much," before she explained how she and others in the president's inner circle manage the workload across such bizarre hours. She said, "I go to sleep early, and Dan Scavino, who I'm sure many of you know is a night owl, we divide it. I get early calls, Dan gets the late calls. That's the way we navigate it." Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, interesting. I'm glad, you know, whether you like her politically or not, I think we can all send our well wishes to Susie Wiles as she battles breast cancer. Great award as well that she won last night. Victoria, thank you so much. Appreciate it, and I'll see you in the studio soon. Take care. gbnews.com/your say. Let me read some very quick comments. Kevin, hello Kevin. You said about the local elections, "Don't get overexcited, GB News, and your reform win. Remember, anything could happen in the next 3 years. You have to hope your Reform Party, and let's not forget your love of the Tories, have to keep it up. Somehow I doubt this will happen, and maybe GB News staff could end up on the dole." Thanks, Kevin. Happy weekend to you too. DJ said, "Labour lost so many seats because their front bench has no interest in the UK. They're just trying to push EU interests upon the UK through the back door." And Paul said, "There's only 3 flags Starmer truly stands by." I think this is a joke. The Chinese flag, the European flag, and the red flag of communism. I'm sure he'd say, "No, it's the Union flag I stand by." Keep those coming in. gbnews.com/your say. Quick reminder of some of the US news stories here in America. Just in, a Utah judge has ruled cameras will be allowed in the courtroom during the high-profile murder case of Charlie Kirk's killer. The judge also moved the preliminary hearing to July the 6th through to July 10th. Tyler Robinson is the man charged with aggravated murder for the killing of Charlie Kirk, and he could face the death penalty by firing squad, no less, if convicted. Kamala Harris, let's talk about this in a second. Kamala Harris, the failed US presidential candidate, has launched a tirade against the war in Iran, speaking at an event in Nevada with Democrats in Vegas. She claims Iran, the war, the conflict, wasn't wanted by the American people nor authorized by Congress. And she also mocks President Trump's claims about obliterating Tehran before calling it BS. And health officials, including those in 6 states, such as Arizona, California, Georgia, New Jersey, Texas and Virginia, are monitoring cruise ship passengers for potential infections after the outbreak of a deadly rat virus, hantavirus it's called, that began on a cruise ship stranded off the coast of Cape Verde. And back in Britain, Showbiz News, the former Strictly star and Radio 2 DJ Tess Daly and Vernon Kay have sadly split after 22 years of marriage. A US fighter jet has opened fire on 2 Iranian oil tankers accused of trying to break America's naval blockade, marking the latest dramatic escalation in the standoff with Tehran. It's all kicking off in the Strait of Hormuz. We'll bring you everything that's unfolded in the Iran crisis today, including the major developments you might have missed. For now, let's get a quick look at your weather. Back in a sec.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. This is your GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. Quite a mixed story weather-wise as we go through this weekend. There will be some rain at times, but also some dry, sunny weather. What we will also see, however, is a drop in our temperatures. But for the time being, there is a front lying across the country. That's bringing quite a bit of cloud and some rain across parts of southern Scotland, northern England, and that's going to edge southwards through the day, bringing some outbreaks of rain to parts of Wales and also the Midlands. Also a few showery outbreaks of rain coming into some southern southwestern parts and a few showers across the far north of Scotland. A north-south split with our temperatures very mild or warm towards the south, temperatures peaking in the low 20s here, much colder than this further north. Some places struggling to get into double digits. And with that colder air, some of those showers coming in from the north as we go through the day, well, they could be a bit wintry, some sleet, some hail, even a bit of snow and graupel, perhaps even to lower levels. Otherwise, through the end of the day, it's looking largely fine for many across Scotland and also Northern Ireland. Just 1 or two spots of rain here and there. Cloudier for parts of northern England, the Midlands and parts of Wales, where we have that front lingering, and some further rain as well. Some outbreaks of rain towards the southwest, further east across central eastern parts of England, largely dry through the evening and the start of the night. Then a north-south split again when it comes to cloud amounts overnight. Cloudier towards the south, with some rain trying to push in from the south. Clearer skies further north, but some showers here. Where we have those clear skies, it's going to be quite a chilly start to the day tomorrow, with some frost in places. Meanwhile, it's milder further south, many places holding up in double figures. Through the day itself, then staying quite cloudy across the southern third of the country. Some rain towards those southern counties. Brighter further north, but across the far north, we do have a weather system making its way through. That's going to bring some persistent and at times heavier rain across northern parts of Scotland later on. For all, it is going to be a chillier day, temperatures down several degrees on today.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Time for a GB News alert. The Department of War has released its long-awaited first batch of never-before-seen UFO files. Among one of the biggest revelations was this statement. It's dated from, I believe, 1950. It says, a few witnesses have reported seeing crewmen who had landed from the objects, describing the beings as 3.5 to 4 feet tall, wearing what appeared to be spacesuits and helmets. And then there was this bombshell from the Apollo 17 mission, the crew who witnessed mysterious bright sparks in space that they said looked like the 4th of July. And this picture on your screen now is a snap from the Apollo 17 mission. As far as I remember, it's the last time we stepped foot on the moon. And it's a picture from that mission, mysterious lights in the sky. Another file from 2013 details a star-shaped object spotted by the US military as it crisscrossed across the sky. Absolutely bizarre. And no one's entirely sure what this is, but it was captured from an infrared sensor aboard a US military platform in 2024, very recently, off the coast of the Pacific. The reporter, the person who reported this, didn't give any oral or written description of the observation, but it's a small illuminated dot you can see on your screen weaving in and out of a wind farm off the coast of the west coast in the Pacific, seemingly meters above the ocean. Just incredible footage. And again, it's just worth highlighting, nobody, not NASA, the US government, has been able to confirm what this is. And if you look at the end of this clip here, it seems to do a U-turn, as far as I remember when I saw it earlier, and then it turns back. Also, in 2024, this footage was of a football-shaped body with 3 radial projections, 1 oriented vertically, 2 oriented downward at a 45-degree angle, relative to the major axis of the main mass, quote unquote. That's a description from the file. Goodness knows what this is. And then there was the audio from 1965 by 2 astronauts aboard the Gemini 7 space mission. Take a listen.
This is Houston. Say again, 7? So we have a bogey at 10 o'clock high. Is that the booster or is that an actual sighting? Say again, 7? So we have several, looks like the 3 up there, actual sighting. It looks like hundreds of little particles going by to the left out about 3 to 4 miles. Understand you have many small particles going by on the left. At what distance? 4 miles. Looks like perhaps a vehicle that's disintegrated.
Wow, that audio has been classified for more than 60 years and it was released today for you, the public. I was about to say the public of Great Britain, but is really for the benefit of not just America, but for the human race. Because who knows, are we alone in the universe? I've got my bets. Let's ask the Exec Director at the National UFO Historical Records Centre, David Marler, and also Chief Archivist at and Historian, Barry Roth. Good evening to you both. Thank you for your company. Barry, I'll start with you. Just incredible footage and documents unearthed today. Who knows what they are, but we've had accounts from Apollo 11 with Collins, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong saying they saw some bright objects tumbling past their spacecraft on the way to the moon. Apollo 17, which, correct me if I'm wrong, was the last time we went on the moon. I mean, is that the reason, Barry, that we haven't been back to the moon since? That because, I don't know, we were scared off by ETs?
I'm not sure if that's the reason why we never went back to the moon for that. I think it had more to do with budgetary reasons of why we actually didn't have an Apollo 18 mission out there. But hey, you know what? We just sent 3-4 astronauts to orbit the moon. Well, the next mission will probably be another orbit of the moon. Then maybe the next one after that will be an actual landing. So we're looking forward to that, and anything involved with space exploration, I'm always excited about. But I think that those transcripts are interesting. And were some of them ice particles? Were some of them reflections? Were some of them objects? It certainly wasn't commercial air traffic that they were seeing. So it kind of makes you scratch your head.
What do you make of this one, Barry, with the wind farm, this illuminated dot?
Well, looking at that, I think one observation is, I don't know, it's hard to get perspective. Once again, there's no narrative that goes along with this. I don't know whether that's actually weaving in and out of the wind farm in the ocean, or whether it's actually passing in front of it and the orb light dims as it passes by the actual wind mill itself. I thought there was some interesting video in that it turned without a minimal turning radius. In reverse direction. It had some in the earlier part of the video, instant acceleration, which I thought was interesting. But it's hard to tell from perspective how far away that orb of light really is from the windmills.
Okay. David, same to you. Let's see if we can play that clip from the wind farm again, because it's the one for me that stuck out really amongst, well, a few did, but that one really got me scratching my head. David, your assessment on that, and just generally on what we've seen today across the releases.
Your lead-in was very appropriate, because what we are dealing with the release today is truly a mixed bag. We have documents predating 1947 all the way up until just last year, 2025. And then, of course, we have these images, we have these videos. And as Barry noted very appropriately, some of these videos and photos don't have much provenance, don't have much context. So we really are basically just trying to interpret these things based on a visual review. And I will note that, and echo what you said, that it is interesting to see the U-turn that I think we're going to see right here in reference to this light. But again, anytime we look at photos, videos, we really try to have some contextual information to help put this in perspective. But I will say that anytime we have government documents being released to the general public, I think it bodes well for the subject as a whole. And certainly it speaks to transparency with regard to government, United States government, regarding this subject. Some of these documents that we've had released were already within the public domain, although admittedly now we have nice color, high resolution scans of those documents, but many of the documents we have not seen. And again, I was very happy to see that, in fact, these documents predate 1947, even going back to World War II with Air Ministry files documenting Foo Fighter reports by Allied pilots. And so I think it's wide in scope. And as you noted at the lead-in, this is just the first tranche of many that we're going to see. So I think if people are not interested in this initial tranche, stay tuned, because we're going to see much, much more, I think, coming from this administration.
David, can I ask you about one memo to FBI Director Edgar Hoover at the time? I think it was from 1950. This was released today. The memo said an investigator for the Air Force stated that 3 so-called flying saucers had been recovered in New Mexico. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, but only 3 feet tall, dressed in metallic cloth of a very fine texture. I don't. Is that referring to Roswell? What do you make of that? And is it the first time we've heard of any sort of sighting or recovery of alien bodies, extraterrestrial forms?
Excellent question. And this is one that really is at the forefront of the disclosure movement within the UFO field, insofar as people believe that the government has recovered crashed vehicles, dead extraterrestrials or non-human entities And in fact, New Mexico has been at the epicenter of many of these narratives, historically speaking. Roswell, of course, being primary, but also Magdalena, New Mexico, and Aztec, New Mexico. As of yet, we have no conclusive proof that these incidents have occurred, but it is a very common narrative within the UFO field, and it is really part and parcel, a huge cornerstone of the belief system with regard to UFOs, and more specifically, the UFO cover-up here in the United States.
Okay. Barry, last word to you on Roswell, because it's something that first got me into this when I was just a small boy, 9, 10 years old. What happened at Roswell?
Well, something crashed at Roswell. Definitively, can we say if it was alien in nature? I'm not sure we can say that, though there is a lot of great, there's been firsthand, secondhand, thirdhand witness testimony. A lot of debate on what the material consisted of, everything from like nitinol type metal that would unfold like liquid mercury if you crunched it up, beams that had strange hieroglyphics on it that were unbreakable and you couldn't burn them. So that was all part of a narrative from witnesses. What we don't have, I wish I could hold up a piece from Roswell and say, look, I've actually got evidence. This really is. It's been chemically analyzed, and it's definitely non-terrestrial. So it's an ongoing investigation because they're still investigating witnesses at this time. But it's probably the most synonymous name with and non-human intelligence. When you say Roswell, everybody knows what that is. Once you get to the next subject, 95% of the people drop off in their knowledge on events that have occurred in the U.S.
Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it. Just one word answer, yes, no, or maybe. Barry, do extraterrestrials exist?
It's not a simple one-word answer, but at this point, based on the anecdotal evidence we've had, I would lean towards that being one of the options that is available to us.
All right. David?
Statistically, I think even astronomers would concede that extraterrestrial life exists out there. To your question, though, specific, I think, to the UFO subject, are extraterrestrials here? And I think when you look historically, as we do at the National UFO Historical Record Center, we have documented cases, both visual and radar, where objects were moving in excess of the flight capabilities that we knew of at the time. And I'm talking back to the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. And if you're intellectually honest with yourself and with others, I think you have to concede that it is a distinct possibility that we are dealing with someone else's technology in some of these cases.
Yeah, that reminds me, we've got to go, unfortunately, but that reminds me of another document today about the Nazis reportedly developing a secret saucer-shaped aircraft. I've long heard years ago, maybe just from nutters perhaps, that they were working with ETs to develop tech during the Second World War and so on. But anyway, I could sit here all night. Guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate speaking to you. It's been fascinating. Please come back because I'm sure this will just keep rolling on. David Marler and Barry Roth. Thank you, chaps. Right, my panel here, David Smith and Niall Gardner. Niall, little green men, are we alone in the universe?
Well, fascinating subject, and I think that what is particularly interesting about this is the level of transparency on the part of the US administration. This is the most transparent government, I think, that we've seen in many decades in the United States. It's striking as well that we're also seeing the release shortly of Steven Spielberg's Disclosure film in June. The same director of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T. And but I'm fascinated by all of this this footage. For the first time, we've seen these extraordinary pictures, and it's just the beginning actually of the release of many more. So let's see what other evidence is released, but this is it's actually one of the biggest stories of the year, the release of these documents.
Yeah, I'm buzzing, but I guess, David, Niall's praising the transparency of the government. I guess you'll never know how transparent they'll be. Maybe they've probably got loads of stuff and they're just like, well, here's a bit of red meat for you chumps, and we'll keep the bodies in the cylinders in Area 51 quiet.
Yeah, you can't prove a negative, and it makes me sad that we didn't get some of this material before, because you'd want to interview those Apollo astronauts and Gemini astronauts about what they saw. I also note this week Barack Obama gave an interview and he was asked about his recent comments on aliens, and he made the point that having worked in government, there's no way the government could keep really big secrets
I saw that. I don't believe that.
They're bound to leak. And interestingly, he also said, if aliens did arrive, there would be that issue of who is going to be the Earth representative, who's going to speak on behalf of the human race, and perhaps, unsurprisingly, Barack Obama nominated himself for that job as speaking for all of us.
I think we should nominate David Lammy. He'd be great at that job.
Yeah.
Charlie Rowley and Jonathan Liss. I'll tell you my thoughts quickly. I think aliens are here. I think they are interdimensional beings. I think there's a theological aspect to it. I think they're demons, which is what J.D. Vance, the Vice President, thinks. I'm in good company there. And yeah, I think they probably take human form. Jonathan Liss, your take?
I don't know who you could be referring to then. Yeah, I think it's very arrogant of us to think that we are alone in the universe. I think there's every reason to think that there are sort of stars or planets way out there where there's life that's just as intelligent or perhaps much more than we are. At least some of us, anyway.
Yeah, or even, Charlie Rowley, maybe there's colonies and races that are less advanced than us, spiritually, technologically. Maybe there's others that are more advanced than us. Who knows, Charlie?
Oh, no, I absolutely agree. I'm with you on this, Ben. I get very excited by this topic because I think, our minds, just however creative we can be as humans, we will never know the extent of the universe and what lies beyond the big black skies. And there must be other life out there. There must be other things going on that we just can't find or have the technology to obviously look at. I think we are not alone. We can't be alone, surely. How is that possible? There must be other life out there, whether it's here on Earth. I'm not entirely sure about that. But, these close encounters that we have, I'd be inclined to believe it.
Yeah, and people say, well, there's no way aliens could get here, ETs, because the technology, you'd have to go through vacuums in space and black holes. It's like, well, yeah, maybe they're just more technologically advanced than us. Could you imagine 150 years ago saying, Charlie Rowley, soon we're going to go to the moon. We didn't have the technology, we weren't flying, I don't think at that point. You'd think it's just balmy. So why not have that same sort of mindful approach to the fact that, yes, there's technology, there's energy paradigms that we can explore that we are just too ignorant about, Anyway, there we go. Leave it at that. gbnews.com/your say. Charlie Rowley, Jonathan Liss, thank you very much. Let's move on to some more, I was about to say serious matters, but ETs and aliens is serious because we need to expand our consciousness into the stars and try and get off this planet while we can. Right, this was Secretary of State Marco Rubio speaking about the situation in the Strait of Hormuz a little earlier today.
The normalizing of their controlling of international waterway is both illegal and it's just something that's unacceptable. And the world has to start asking itself, what is it willing to do if Iran tries to normalize a control of an international waterway? I think that's unacceptable. So, but we're expecting a response from them today at some point. We have not received that yet, as in the last hour, but perhaps that will come. Their system is still highly fractured and a bit dysfunctional as well. So that may be serving as an impediment. I hope it's a serious offer. I really do.
Let's get you up to speed on some of the key developments you may have missed amid the election fallout in Iran. We now understand American jets fired on 2 Iranian tankers accused of heading for a port in Iran. It's also reported Tehran launched a, quote, unprovoked attack on 3 of America's destroyers, with forces hitting back, targeting the launch sites used by Iran. The president was talking about that attack. He was talking about the small IRGC gunboats and just said they just blew them out of the water. And he said the crew are no longer with us. Let's get more from the editor-in-chief at the Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari. Lisa, just update us, will you, on what's happening in Iran? The market's acting kindly today because I think possibly we may be close to a deal. Lisa, what do you think?
Perhaps, or more of the same. We've seen this cycle before where the Iran regime plays out the clock by offering deals that they know is not palatable by the United States. Donald Trump has mentioned that these are not sufficient deals. They don't deal with the main issue here, which is zero tolerance for development of a nuclear weapon. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is what everyone is talking about. That is not our strategic imperative. Of course, we want to establish deterrence there. We want to make it known that this is not a lever lever that the regime can continue to utilize every time it wants to take the global economy hostage, as it has in this moment. But look how duplicitous they are in really changing the arena of this war to the Strait of Hormuz and continuing there, hoping that by choking or by putting this pressure on global economy, they will deter the United States, or that the United States will not have the appetite to go back to kinetic warfare. And then in the meantime, they play out the clock with these bogus offers that they know are not feasible to end this war with the United States. So in the meantime, I know that this administration understands the nature of this regime, will not accept a subpar deal. And as the saying goes, we've come too far to only come this far.
Yeah, I understand one of the sticking points to this deal, which would start with the 30-day sort of negotiation period, but the sticking points to be thrashed out during those 30 days was, of course, the enriched uranium. I think the US wants that uranium to be stored outside of Iran, in the US, and also Iran wants the lifting of sanctions. Do you think on that point, the lifting of sanctions, that is a realistic possibility, Lisa? Their assets unfrozen for the first time in God knows how long?
Well, that's what they have gotten in the past. Now, remember, under the JCPOA, which is the nuclear deal under President Obama, that is when the regime first got its confidence at the negotiation table, and they believed that they could run circles around the United States. That is their weapon of choice, to sit at the negotiation table, or to at least have this hiatus so that they can go back and forth with negotiations rather than kinetic warfare. But in the meantime, this administration is not delivering pallets of cash or unfreezing sanctions, or even loosening sanctions in the meantime, unless they get what they want from this regime. In the meantime, there is tremendous economic pressure on this regime. The war has really shifted to it becoming more of an economic war against the regime. They know that the finger is on the trigger, and we can go back to actual military warfare if we want to. And in the meantime, they are being degraded very, very significantly in terms of the sanctions and the pressure that is on them. Now, the next step, the next phase in all of this is, once they do collapse, the biggest threat to them is the Iranian people that are willing and ready to come out onto the streets should the regime collapse further than this.
Okay, great stuff, Lisa. Niall Gardner, former aide to Margaret Thatcher, is here. He'd like to ask you a question, if you don't mind. Niall, over to you.
Yeah, great to see you, Lisa.
Great to see you.
Lisa, question for you. How long can the Iranian regime survive with the US naval blockade in place? And the economy must be under immense strain, soaring prices, and an economy that is really already on its knees. How long can this regime continue?
Yeah, well, I can't give you exact timeline, but I will tell you this: 180% inflation, 500 million losses a day, 80% or more loss in exports is very, very difficult. But you have to remember, this is a regime that doesn't mind its 90 million population starving. They only have to keep a certain segment of the population fed and paid, and those are their own thugs, the IRGC, the Basij. They're the ones who have to remain in place. Now, I've been told that they can only survive months at the status quo, the current economic strangulation that they're under. But in the meantime, we have to know this. For this regime, mere survival, regardless of by how much they're being degraded, mere survival equals victory. They're hoping that they can hang on much longer than the United States can, that they can starve their population, they can affect the economy and put that burden on their population much more than the United States is willing to, going up against a midterm with the price of gas going up, the markets fluctuating the way that they have. And they know that this is a president that campaigned on no wars, that does not want any wars. He knows that internally, domestically, here in the United States, we have such a pushback against the president for this war by both parties. So they're banking on all those factors that, the United States will be the first to blink, that will not have the appetite to continue this war further, and will want to de-escalate and will want an off-ramp more than they do. So that is what they're hoping for. But the bottom line is that the economy was in shambles to begin with. That is what brought us to this perfect storm, where this was such an opportune moment to launch these strikes, to help the Iranian people, to help us regionally, ability to establish some sort of stability in the Middle East, and of course, for our own national security in the United States. It affects us all.
Okay, Lisa, great stuff. Thank you as always. Really appreciate you being on the Late Show Live. Thank you, Lisa Daftari, Editor-in-Chief at the Foreign Desk. Have a good weekend, Lisa. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Niall, David, Jonathan and Charlie, all still here. Charlie, Iran war, are you, I mean, I'll be completely honest, I'm kind of over it. Until Trump turns the screw and continues the violence, or they come to a deal, I don't really want to hear about it.
Yeah, look, and I think most people didn't see the conflict going on or as drawn out, or where we currently are, where there's a ceasefire or where there's any kind of negotiation between America and the US. The UK should have been a bit more helpful. European countries should have been a bit more helpful, and allowing maybe America to strike when it wanted to and do what it should have done, and it could have been brought to a close.
Starmer was calling that a win today. He said, look, I didn't get involved in the Iran war. He basically said that's a good thing to judge him on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the one thing we can take from the whole 24 hours is Keir Starmer is not a winner.
He called it right on this, Charlie. He called it right on this.
And he has put our national security at risk. Don't forget, Iran funds its proxies that want to harm the UK. So I think we should have been a bit more helpful. That doesn't mean sending in troops. That doesn't even mean sending in our own weapons. But anyway, I'm with you, Ben, on this one. I think,
look, Ben, you know perfectly well what I think about this, and I kind of think it's funny that you say you don't want to hear anything more about it. You support this with your full chest. You should be force-fed news about Iran.
I still do. I want them to finish the job, actually. I want them to send some B-2 bombers over and finish the job with destruction, and the Islamists can go and meet their virgins.
It's not the quote-unquote Islamist. It's not quote-unquote Islamist, Ben. It's the individual. It's the thousands of Iranian civilians who would and indeed have already paid.
Yeah, but it's not a war on the civilians, is it? It's a war on the regime.
And if it was your family, just that you wouldn't call your family collateral damage if they were sort of bombed from the sky. And Iranians don't think that either, by and large. And the fundamental point, Ben, is that this has been a total catastrophic humiliation for America, for American hard power, and indeed for American soft power as well, because they went in saying that they wanted the regime change. Regime change is going to happen. They want to eliminate the nuclear threat. That was already eliminated in June, of course. That's nothing. Nothing's happened with that. And of course, the only aim of the war is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz that was open before the war started. It is a total failure, and the only people denying that are the people who are slavish devotees to the Trump line.
A sad piece, Jonathan.
I haven't got time. David?
I was going to say, let's watch Donald Trump in Beijing on Thursday. Big meeting with President Xi. Does this Iran war cast a shadow there? Is there a sense of American power draining away and Xi looking very pleased with himself?
Great point. He's going on Thursday next week to China.
That's when it starts, yeah, for a two-day meeting.
Interesting. All eyes on that. Guys, thank you so much. Charlie, Rowley, Jonathan Liss, David Smith, Niall Gardner, thank you very much. Appreciate your company as always. It's been very funny, very hotly contested as well at times. Thank you. And thank you, viewers and listeners. Appreciate you. One very quick comment. Joan has said, Ben, you might be interested to know I saw a UFO at close quarters, 30 feet, 56 years ago on Yorkshire moors at night. Incredible, terrifying experience. It took me 30 years to realise it was using gravity as a power source. It stayed completely still and sped off, soundless. Thank you, Joan. Appreciate you. All the viewers, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow night from midnight in the UK. Enjoy your Saturday. Sweet dreams and good night. Goodbye. Mwah.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. This is your GB News weather forecast coming to you from the Met Office. Quite a mixed story weather-wise as we go through this weekend. There will be some rain at times, but also some dry, sunny weather. What we will also see, however, is a drop in our temperatures. But for the time being, there is a front lying across the country. That's bringing quite a bit of cloud and some rain across parts of southern Scotland, northern England, and that's going to edge southwards through the day, bringing some outbreaks of rain to parts of Wales and also the Midlands. Also a few showery outbreaks of rain coming into some southern southwestern parts and a few showers across the far north of Scotland. A north-south split with our temperatures, very mild or warm. Towards the south, temperatures peaking in the low 20s here, much colder than this further north. Some places struggling to get into double digits. And with that colder air, some of those showers coming in from the north as we go through the day, well, they could be a bit wintry. Some sleet, some hail, even a bit of snow and graupel, perhaps even to lower levels. Otherwise, through the end of the day, it's looking largely fine for many across Scotland and also Northern Ireland. Just 1 or 2 spots of rain here and there. Cloudier for parts of Northern England, the Midlands and parts of Wales, where we have that front lingering and some further rain as well. Some outbreaks of rain towards the southwest, further east across central eastern parts of England.